Good. Good evening and welcome to the April 11th Town Council meeting. If you would kindly rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For announcements, I have just three regular meetings coming up, April 25th, May 9th, and May 23rd, all three at 7 p.m. here in the Matthew Thornton Room. And Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The filing deadline for property tax exemptions and credits is Monday, April 15th. Beginning on April 25th, the transfer station will be open Thursday nights until 7 p.m. for summer extended hours. The first hazardous waste collection day of 2024 will be held Saturday, April 20th from 8 to 12 noon at Nashua Public Garage located at 9 Stadium Drive. If you are going there, please bring cash or a check. 2024 dog licenses are available at the town clerk's office. Per state RSA, all owners of dogs 4 months or older are required to license their dog by May 1st. Owners must present a valid rabies certificate and neutering or spading if applicable. If you no longer have your dog, please contact the town clerk's office at 603-424-3651 so that they may update their records. And finally, I'd like to bring this back. I talked about it last meeting, but I want to bring it back again, is that there's been an increased scam activity. The scams have been reported involving our elderly community, but all members of our community. There has been several reports taken by the police that scammers use the internet, emails, and telephone, both cell and landlines, to steal thousands of dollars from citizens. In an effort to assist the community to cut down on fraudulent activity, they're looking to put together an email list. This email list will be used to communicate valuable information involving scams and other important information that the police department receives through multiple federal agencies and organizations. Signing up for this is very easy and it's free. If you send your email address, name, and phone number to our community service officer, Detective Bill Vanderside at WVANDERSYDE@merrimacknh.gov, or you can call him if you have questions. His contact number is 603-420-1842, and he'd be happy to assist you in the community. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Comments from the press and public. If you'd like to address the council, you can step to the mic or over at the table here. Seeing no one coming forward, we have two items, recognitions this evening, and the first one is for Carol Miner, who has been working for the town for 21 years and with the Building and Health Division from September 23rd to 2002 to March 8th, 2024. I apologize. Chief, I didn't know if you wanted to speak to these.
I believe you have the wording in your packet for the plaque that was given to her. That will be presented to her.
Yeah.
Good evening, thank you. I don't know if there's words that can describe what Carol did for our office and our division, to be truthful. We're learning that now that she's retired and moved on. All of those things that she just kind of took care of that were unseen. So she was a great employee to have. Certainly walked out the door with a lot of institutional knowledge that, we can't get back. But we're learning every day, and she was a great person to have with our organization, so truly blessed to have her.
Yeah, and a great personality as well.
Absolutely.
Worked well there. All right, the plaque that we will be presenting to Carol reads, "Presented to Carol A. Miner in recognition of the loyal and dedicated full-time service which you've contributed for more than 21 years to the town of Merrimack in the Building and Health Division. Your dedication and devotion to duty has been a tremendous asset to the town of Merrimack. We wish to extend to you our sincere appreciation for your outstanding performance of duty, September 23rd, 2002 to March 8th, 2024, presented by the Merrimack Town Council and the town manager." And we'll make sure she gets that. And then the next one is the council would present a recognition award to the former Fire Marshal John Manueli in recognition of his retirement from the Merrimack Fire Rescue Department after almost 18 years of full-time service from November 21st, 2005 to November 29th, 2023. And Chief? Yeah. Is that?
Yeah, no, I don't get to stand here by myself. Again, Captain Manueli, I only got to work with him for 2 years. But again, another great person for the organization, a lot of institutional knowledge. Another person who did a lot of things you didn't know he really did. And now that he's gone, again, we're trying to pick those things up. And on John's last day, we had a gathering at our department where people got to come and say goodbye to John and present him with some gifts and plaques and awards and things. So this is your night to recognize John, so I'll turn it over to you guys.
Thanks so very much. And that flew by, I have to say. John, let's move over here. Sure. We have to make sure these guys can hear this. The plaque, excuse me, the plaque reads, presented to John E. Manueli upon the occasion of your retirement and in recognition of the loyal and dedicated full-time service which you have contributed for 18 years to the Merrimack Fire and Rescue Department. Your dedication and devotion to duty has been a tremendous asset to the town of Merrimack, and we wish to extend to you our sincere appreciation for your outstanding performance and duty, November 21st, 2005 to November 29th, 2023, presented by the Merrimack Town Council and the Town Manager. And again, thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone. It was honestly my honor to serve the town of Merrimack for the time that I did, and I will always miss it. So thank you all, and that's all I have to say.
All right. We have no appointments this evening, and we have a public hearing, which is the council's to hold a hearing to discuss the proposed discontinuance of the intersection of Church Street and Daniel Webster Highway to allow for the construction of a sidewalk along DW Highway north of the Merrimack Public Library and extending to Wire Road pursuant to RSA 231:43. And this evening we have Don is going to be.
Yeah, Don's here with
can-
our consultants. The reason why we're holding this proposed discontinuance of this intersection is, as you know, we came in front of the council, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, talking about the traffic light at Wire Road. And during that procedure, we're doing the bridge over by Pinenberg on Route 3 and the intersection at Wire Road. The planning process that goes along with what needs to be done for the sidewalks is the reason why we're here tonight earlier than the construction period would begin, because we need to know how the council feels about closing Church Street and discontinuing Church Street. It will not be discontinued right away. It will won't be discontinued until construction begins. We're still working through the procedures of drawing up plans of the intersection and the bridge as they work together. So Don's here tonight with our consultants to go over a quick presentation to explain what's going on. Don?
Did they, excuse me, Paul, did they have this set up from out back?
Yeah, you got to turn them on.
That's all right. I did the same thing.
You know,
It's an old,
I was pushing the button. The
Yeah.
button's underneath.
it's an old guy
yes.
thing.
The
It's good
Thank
to
you.
save electricity.
what happened was Tuesday or Thursday, Wednesday. We had a event in this room, and a lot of them got shut off.
Perfect.
So we have to turn them back
All
on. And if you just
You
want
need
to,
somebody younger to do the tech
That's
stuff,
it.
right?
that's it. Counselor Hunter, if you just want to, he's not here, so if you just want to.
Councilor Hunter has been excused from tonight's meeting. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm here tonight with our engineers, as Paul had said. This is Chris Turgeon, he's from Beta. He's working on the actual Wire Road intersection part. If you remember, we combined the two projects, the bridge project near Pinenberg on US Route 3 and the Wire Road due to their closeness, and one influences the other. So originally we had Jim Bouchard is here from, used to be Quantum, it is now he's with HL Turner, so he's working on the bridge part of this project. But Chris is here because he's working on the Wire Road, which it intersects with the Church Street intersection, and he's the one that's been doing the sidewalk, or designing the sidewalk in that area. So this is a part of the plan. Obviously, it's just a small piece of it. The area that's highlighted is the section of Church Street that is that's in green that we need to close, basically, due to the slope of the road. You know, it's very steep coming down through there. In putting the sidewalk across through, this would make this whole area even steeper to be able to go up with traffic. There's also been a number of accidents here at the intersection. One of the requests, so this has been going on since about 2013 because the Town Center Committee had been involved the first time around with this request. And as a result, this schematic was done up showing a turnaround area up at the top by the MYA Center. And this is the section that we will be,
Adult community.
Yes, the Delt Community Center, John O'Leary Delt Community
I'm
Center.
sorry, yes.
MYA is across the street.
Across the street, yes. Which is, the entrance is, right, yes. On the other plan, it showed it, the entrance right there. Then the church is here, and we have a number of residents here. So this was one of the concepts. This has not been designed out at this point, because we need to know whether or not we can close Church Street and what we're gonna have to do for the sidewalk. So that's why we're here tonight before you. So this was a concept that was done back in 2013. It's just one idea. Hopefully it will fit, but we'll work through the engineering process in order to do that. So the intersection, as I said, poses a lot of safety issues. The intersection prohibits the sidewalk from going across as it is right now. We've had some abutter feedback. I have been talking with several of the abutters. I had received some emails. You'll see before you tonight, I put this presentation together for you, and I put the abutters' concerns, because they gave them to me in writing, right in the presentation, so that you have all of their concerns along with the Town Center Committee, because this was part of their overall plan, and they'd really requested to close the section of Church Street back in 2013, and they had written a letter to the Town Council making that request, and there were also some stipulations that they had. I've also included them within this so that all of the stipulations that I've received to date are actually within this presentation here. So make it a little bit easier for you to be able to see what was going on. So one thing we'll have to do, obviously, as part of this process, is to be able to address all of their concerns. I had from Daniel, and Mr. Daniel, I'm going to butcher his last name, so I won't do that. These are a number of his concerns. He came in, and we had a very long discussion about all of this, and I told him that I was going to do this, actually put his concerns, these are straight from his letter that he wrote, and I put them all in here so that we have them, and I've given them to Chris and also to Jim so that we're all aware of what they're looking at. But they have a number of different issues, parking along the street, up on Church Street, further up, and then people trying to get through. It gets very congested up there. He said that people accelerate from the library going up. He also said that he works from home and he can see people going down and near misses and accidents that are happening because of that. He said the other issue they had was pedestrians. They like to walk down the street, so he had a request whether or not we could make some type of a walkway maybe going down, so we'll have to look at that can we do something for a pedestrian? It's a little steep for ADA, but we'll see what we can come up with. You know, he had a question about maybe doing some guardrail up at the top to close it off. But he said a lot of that's really ugly, and they don't want to see that. So maybe we can consider like a wooden type guardrail or something of that nature, where it's more flattering for that neighborhood. They also have concerns up there about some of the rain and the drainage that comes down the street. We would want to be able to address some of those issues, and you know, we can do that during the engineering part of this. So they had said, you know, they weren't opposed, but they would like to have all of these items basically addressed. But they also feel, he said, keeping it open increases the opportunity for more accidents and more people hurt. He did summarize some of his concerns, so I put those in there also. And then his last bullet, he said, the simplest and most effective solution to all the problems is to immediately close Church Street, even if there are only a few Jersey barriers. Why wait and let it save lives? Let it start now. But that's, you know, so I went all the way through what he had. The church, Nathan Streeter also sent me an email, so I put the bulk of all of his email and his concern, because they're dealing with, you know, Church Street all around them and possible increase in the traffic. Although, you know, he said he does recognize the, you know, the grade is poor and whatnot. He had an idea of maybe coming out of the library down here on Daniel Webster, making a new exit. I'm not sure that that's going to work properly, because we've got a set of lights here, we're going to have a set of lights down there. I don't think that's going to be a very good idea, but we'll take a look at that. He also had requested doing a traffic count in that area. I can certainly look at that. I have not set anything up at this point to do that. So I've put these in there again so you can read them and see all of their concerns. But, you know, to note that we are listening to everybody, and I know there's many here tonight, so maybe there's some more that have some additional concerns they want to have heard. Town Center Committee, 13 years ago, they wrote a letter to the town council. And I put basically, they were recommending closing this Church Street. And then they had these bulleted points that they wanted to make sure that we looked at as we were going through. So this is another set. A lot of these are also duplicates in one way or another that we will be looking at as part of the whole process. So again, I put all of their concerns. I did go to the Town Center Committee, well, one, because I'm on the Town Center, but I asked them if they would possibly give me an updated letter of today saying that their concerns from 2013 are still there and still valid, and they still felt that, and they made a vote and they agreed with the letter. And there should be a new letter in your packet saying basically that we're still holding the 2013 letter.
So you have 3 letters of recommendation, one from the police chief, one from the fire chief, and one from the Town Center Committee. That was along in the packet.
And I didn't have copies of the police or fire, so they didn't make the presentation, but you have them. So basically, again, this is the area we're in concern. I guess we would take any questions and then any abutter concerns and anything more that they would like to add to all of this.
Does the council have any questions at this point? This is a public hearing, so if we're all set to do that, at 7:21, I'll open the public hearing, and if you'd like to address the council, you can step to this mic or grab a seat next to Don and Chris.
So while people make their way to the microphone, I do want to let the public know that we did send out certified letters to everybody on Church Street, the church itself, and the people on Babuza Lake Road who abut Church Street. So everybody's been noticed that we were talking about this tonight.
No, I appreciate that.
I did across Daniel Webster also, the couple of abutters that are directly across
Oh,
the street.
okay, good.
Okay.
All right, if no one, yeah, please.
My name is Nathan Streeter. I am a member of the deacons at the church across the street. I just wanted to, I thank you for including my comments in the letter, Don. I appreciate that. One thing I just wanted to highlight, especially hearing the conversation tonight and talking about the turnaround, parking is definitely a concern in that area, especially on Sundays when we have the church. That's our biggest event. It's of course on Sunday mornings with worship. And there's often something going on at the community center in that area. So usually the church has parking in the lot, which fills up, and then all the kind of the driveways we have along the sides all fill up. And then usually the community center is parking all along Church Street, and it makes it pretty tight. And I'm definitely a little concerned, especially hearing about there being a turnaround going at the top. That might take away some of the area they already use for parking. I think that should be a consideration with this proposal, is to make sure that parking, if anything, is increased, not decreased
Right.
during the change. And then the other thing that I mentioned in the letter was just that our primary concern is that right now, the only way for all traffic to exit from the community center or the library and so on will become the other end of Church Street, right across from McElwain. And that's a very busy intersection, as everyone knows, especially when school's getting out, and during the kind of afternoon commute and stuff like that. So I think that should be a consideration for this proposal.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Street. Anybody else?
I was curious on whether he was gonna-
Good evening. My name is Steve Dembo. I'm speaking as a resident of Merrimack. I unfortunately don't have any permission from the board of the John O'Leary Adult Community Center that I manage for the town to speak on their behalf. We really didn't have time to have a meeting to discuss whether or not I could make an official presentation or request or air my personal concerns, but these will be my own. When this came up a number of years ago, my good friend and I had some disagreements about this. We all have a different opinion about whether or not we should close or keep it open and what the effect would be on the proposed continuance of sidewalks in the Merrimack Town Center. My concern is the limited accessibility of emergency vehicles that would be approaching that general area from Daniel Webster Highway if the road were to be closed. The Adult Center, of course, is home to the Merrimack Senior Citizens Club, and we have a number of events that take place on a recurring basis throughout the year, throughout the week, different times of day and evening. The capacity for the Adult Community Center is fixed per the fire department at a capacity of 200 occupants. Of course, we do not have enough parking on our footprint to accommodate a number even approaching that. And the church has effectively requested that we not park in their lot on Sundays. And that's regardless of whether there's any activities going on at the church or not. So sometimes the parking lot may be empty, but we still are not allowed to have our tenants park in the church lot on Sundays. So where do we go? We go around Church Street on the church side of Church Street, not the cemetery side. We have the library available. We have Town Hall. With all of those options, yes, it is very congested. There's no question about that, but that's the best we can do to offer our tenants a place to park their vehicles. Sunday is, yes, certainly the busiest day. Not only is the church there, but we have a very vibrant group of AA that meets there on every Sunday morning. It's probably one of the most popular meeting sites in southern New Hampshire and northern Massachusetts. I've been told the reason for that is because of the facility that they have to use, and we're very proud of that, and we're very happy to have them as tenants. But it does pose problems as far as congestion. And my concern is, and we've had incidents where we've had ambulance service or fire service respond for one reason or another, and they practically always come up through Daniel Webster Highway and turn left onto Church Street, go up that hill, and approach the center to do their work and research. My concern is that closing that road will make it more difficult and rerouting, require the emergency vehicles to have to go further up Babusick Lake Road, cut a right between the cemetery and the church. And it might delay a response. And if there were to be a substantial emergency taking place at one of those very congested times, more than one vehicle is certainly likely to respond. My concern would be if they can't come in that way, they've got only one way to go. And as far as the sidewalk is concerned, it's many sidewalks in town come to an abrupt end where there's an intersection and people walk across on the road and then pick up the sidewalk on the other end. I don't know why we couldn't have it hashed out as a crosswalk. Whether you need to go to the extent of having a push button with a blinking light to say no, stop or go, whether that would be necessary. I don't know that the pedestrian traffic is that significant that would require something like that. It's a relatively short distance across that road. But if it should come to pass, I'm not in favor of closing the road for those reasons. And if it were deemed that that was the route that was going to be taken, I would encourage the exploration of some frangible barriers that could be driven over by emergency vehicles. They have them in various places. These are bendable pylons that are attached to the ground. They discourage vehicular traffic, but would be available to be ridden over by emergency vehicles over that and placed in that hashed pedestrian crosswalk area. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Barry Johnson, 482 Daniel Webster Highway. I don't want to close it. The one thing is emergency vehicles. I don't know if anyone remembers, but 3 years ago, I had a massive fire in my house. That road saved my 155-year-old house. They were there like that. They didn't have to go through Church Street, turn around, do all that stuff. And I agree with him about painting the sidewalk and getting out there like everyone knows on Sundays. Sunday mornings between 10 and 1, getting everyone out of there is going to be even more of a headache. And us trying to get out and into Church Street, that road is, I know it's painted, they said it's not supposed to park, but it never happens. Getting us out of there is a nightmare. So I really don't want it closed. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the reason, the reason for the need to close it and not just put hash marks for sidewalk is because it wouldn't be ADA compliant. The slope would be too great. There's a specific grade that a sidewalk can lean at, and Don could speak to that better than I can. I just know that those are parts of the problem. And in order to gain those measurements, it would have to dig into the side, and it would create a bigger headache. But I appreciate that and your thoughts. Would anybody else like to address the council on this?
Dave Galis, 9 Church Street, right at the corner near the cemetery there. I'm in favor of any time anybody wants to put a walking path in this town. I have another house in Portland, Maine. It's a wonderful walkable town. It makes a huge quality of life difference. It'd be great for kids to have access and not have to stick their bikes or what out in the street right there. I am concerned about access, but it's really I don't have the convenience of being work from home guy, so I actually have to fight the traffic at the corner of Church Street, and I don't think people understand the little symbols that they put on the ground there. The kind of painted this thing. They just blow right by it. It's kind of useless. If there's any improvement that could be made to make that intersection reasonable, I have on very rare occasions used the exit on the other end of Church Street when I just have finally given up on kind of rude people not allowing access, particularly between, like reasonable time, 7:30 and beyond. or 7 o'clock when the school is busy. Fortunately, I've changed my schedule to accommodate that and try to disappear before 6:30. But it's because of that intersection. It's so frustrating. So that's kind of my take.
Great, thank you very much. Bill?
Throw my gum away. My name is William Behrens. I'm over on 25 Island Drive. I'm a former resident of 5 Church Street, and I'm not sure what her lady's name is.
Dawn.
She commented that about 2013, in my notes, I wrote 10 to 12 years ago, they had this same discussion about closing Church Street at that time. And the fire chief at the time spoke in favor of not closing it because of what Mr. Dembo had already discussed about the emergency access for the Church Street and the Senior Citizen Center there. There was also a discussion on the table about reconfiguring the up slope, like flattening it out a little bit more, like you've done over here on Chamberlain Road, coming down the hill there. Before they put in that new condo complex up at the top of the hill there, they needed to flatten out the grade of that hill going up there on Chamberlain Road. Something like that was discussed back then about reconfiguring the upslope over here, maybe cutting into the hillside a little more, flattening out closer to the bottom and come closer toward the library area, so it would give a little bit easier access upwards on that. And that would help with the ADA situation too, flattening out the roadway as they go up the hill. The problem would be, as the rest of them has talked about, is the parking there on the weekends and on Saturdays, and the big over-the-road buses that come in for the tours for the seniors that go on there. I saw a bus get stuck on that hill slope one time. He started to come up the hill, and his drive wheels were off the ground. So he basically couldn't get up the hill. And I think they had to get Bailey's or Lewis Towing to come over and pull him back off of there. But that's been years ago. I'm in favor of keeping it open because of the security and because of the emergency exit. And as far as the sidewalk goes, I think it's a great idea. And they need to, flatten out it'd be some engineering things to do to flatten out the grade of the slope going up the hill, and that might solve the sidewalk problem along the bottom there and make it easier to, continue on what's on there now. So I don't want to see it closed. And that's the way I spoke about 10 or 12 years ago also. Nelson, you'll get your sidewalk. I know you will. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Would anybody like to further speak to the council about the potential closure of Church Street? See none, I'll close the public hearing at 7:34. And Andy arrived at 7:24. I don't know if you caught that. Yes. Thanks, Nancy. All right. I don't know. I remember the explanations, as I kind of roughly alluded to, why you can't push it back. It would dig deeper into the into the road, taking up even more space and driving up from the library, I know, had an impact on that in some fashion. But I didn't know also, and it's not for tonight necessarily, but if retaining walls might be utilized in order to create more parking in the library area and things of that nature, maybe bring a retaining wall towards what would become the sidewalk and open up, if that would help in configuring the rights of way up there, I guess.
Chris, you want to take that?
Here we go. So flattening that slope on Church Street would remove about 3 feet of material. It's definitely possible to put, it would be definitely possible to take a look at some form of retaining wall or to meet the grades and not have to potentially have to impact the library driveway, but then that's something that we could look at. But 3 feet of material of the roads is significant, and it really doesn't address the site issue problem. So,
Sure, and I didn't know if the grade, which is probably not in compliance with our new rules that we would have, I don't know if that exceeds what's recommended or not. And if in changing that, if we'd have to honor the new rules, or maybe it fits, maybe that grade is not out of compliance with today's standards. I'm not sure.
Can't recall what what the proposed grade would need to be, but right now I do know it's about a little over 16% slope, which is pretty significant for.
I think, don't we have a 10% for driveways in town?
I thought it was 8 or 10,
Yeah, so,
8%,
8%.
I don't think you can even get 8%.
8%, it's a road, it's not a driveway, so.
Oh,
right, but I mean, a driveway, if we have that for the driveway, I would imagine the road would be at least similar to that, would be my guess, but I don't know. So that's, I mean, if we could do something to that effect, and I don't know at what point you need that, you know, for our decisions and discussions,
If it's a 16% grade now,
it's not gonna get any better.
not gonna get down to that.
Yeah.
In Chamberlain, we did, like he said, we did lessen that a little bit, but we had a little bit more land area to work with in order to be able to do
And
that.
they did remove a lot of
And we
fill
did.
with that
Yes.
project, yeah.
Yes, we did.
Would, Chief, would you mind speaking a little bit to your thoughts on the, you know, situation as it applies to your safety equipment getting through there?
Finley, before the chief speaks, Chris brought up a great point about line of sight. And just so happens today, I was driving on Daniel Webster Highway, going towards Wire Road and the post office, and a woman was coming down Church Street and a woman was coming down Daniel Webster Highway, and they both somehow went on Daniel Webster Highway. I'm surprised there wasn't an accident, because the woman coming down Daniel Webster Highway towards the library veered off into my lane to get around the woman who was coming down Church Street, and the woman down Church Street did not see this other car. So the line of sight there is a very bad intersection when you come down there, because you cannot see the traffic coming southerly, I guess, on
Mhm.
Daniel Webster Highway. Ask the chief chief, go over there and look at it. I don't really want to rain on the chief's parade, but I can tell you right now, our ladder truck is not going up Church Street. Like that bus,
the way-
our ladder truck would be teetering,
Yeah.
trying to get up there. Would have to go around anyways, but the chief can talk about our other apparatus.
So, yeah, I'm not gonna be the popular guy in the room. From what I heard, there's traffic issues, parking issues, all of those issues, and obviously there's lines painted that no one seems to follow or pay attention to. If we start to enforce the proper rules that need to go on up there, there would be plenty of room for us to access the couple of homes on that street. That's not a popular answer. I get that. But if it's all about safety, well, then let's think about safety globally, not just keeping a roadway open or closing. It's about the whole area and what we think is best for our response to get up there. Town manager's accurate that the new ladder truck probably won't go up that roadway because of the pitch and the length of the truck that we're purchasing. Other apparatus that respond, engines and all of that, at some point, because it's a tight road anyway, you can't get more than 1 or 2 trucks in that spot anyway. So our response plan would certainly be adjusted to make sure we get the right equipment in at the right time to, you know, respond to any emergency that someone should have at their home. So closing the street does not really affect our operation too dramatically. It would on a Sunday, because now we have a lot of congestion and a lot of things perhaps not where it should be. So those are probably all of those things that need to be looked at, besides whether you decide whether to close or keep open Church Street. But that whole general area needs to really be looked at, and if enforcement has to happen, enforcement has to happen. So that's kind of my response.
Nancy? Thanks, Chief.
Couple of thoughts that I'm having. I really don't see where parking is a deciding factor, because if the road, and I'm not indicating whether I agree or disagree with the road closing, but the argument about the parking is a moot point, because right now, with the road being open, the parking is not going to change if it's closed. You're still going to be parking on Church Street on Sunday morning. Do you want, am I correct in that? So the parking argument, you can respond in a second. So the parking, now the getting in and out is an issue. I understand that, but that's not parking. I'm wondering if there could be some assessment of can parking be enhanced. I'm not sure if that means some configuration of the land around the adult community center so that the parking can be minimal or decreased on Church Street on Sunday mornings so that you're, extending the parking lot, I guess is what I'm thinking, for the library. Can that be extended somehow so that it can be utilized for parking? That would enhance the safety issue because that would perhaps decrease the need to park on Church Street. And that would take care of the emergency equipment, would take care of the issues concerning with the church. So I would like to see that, to see what, is that possible? I think the parking itself is not debatable. I don't think it changes, whether it's open or closed, to be honest with you. The access and the emergency accessibility, that's a different story. And I think that perhaps it's like, I would like to find out, is there a way to accommodate that? I'm not against closing Church Street, but I understand and appreciate the concerns, and my question is, are there ways we can address those concerns?
We can certainly look at that. The section of
Does
Church
that-
Street.
I'm sorry, does that answer, you had a question, does that answer?
My comment was just that.
Yeah,
You gotta come to the mic.
yeah.
We can't hear you.
Sorry. My main concern regarding the parking is that if we add a turnaround at the top, that I assume would have to take up some of the community center's current parking or something, or that I'm not familiar with what the turnaround proposed is, I guess.
But not many spaces, but I understand,
Yeah.
but not significantly. You're talking 4 or 5 spaces, maybe.
Yeah, there's not that many. How many spots do you have?
That's probably.
10?
That's probably a good third.
Yeah.
Oh, if you make that turnaround inaccessible to parking, but if you just close off the road and don't address parking, that stays as it is.
They were talking about the turnaround that would be
At the very top.
created, will, I guess the testimonies would likely impact a few parking spaces. So that's why.
It depends on where it's built. Okay, but not significantly is
It's
my point.
not a debatable item at the moment, but
Right.
No, thank you.
Right. But it is one of the issues of discussion, so. But anyway, that might be relieved if we knew what other options there might be. Because there is land around that might be able to be utilized around the adult community center.
That's why I spoke of retaining walls. I don't know if that would have any, because I've never
Yeah.
looked closely. But if you were, let Barbara first, next time.
So, just a couple of thoughts. I actually go to the community center for several different meetings, and when you only have the option of coming out on Babusick Lake Road, it's a pain, especially first thing in the morning, like when the Rotary meets, and we're trying to get through. We were trying to get through there, now we're in a different location, but at 8:30 in the morning on Babusick Lake, it takes a long time to get out when you're on that side of Church Street. Secondly is, how does anyone turn around? You take away the access to the DW off of Church Street. So now, if you've got cars parked along Church Street, there's not enough room to turn around, to get out again. So I don't know how that will work either. Also, we have a new business that's about to be opened there. And I think they're parking in the back of the restaurant, which means if you block off Church Street, that business is going to very well be affected. In fact, you may be taking their parking. So I'm not sure how that would work. Well, it depends where you block it. If you block it at the bottom of the hill, okay, you still have access to the back of the restaurant.
The street shouldn't be considered part of the parking lot.
No. I'm saying just to be able to get to, come down heading west on Church and be able to get to the back of the restaurant. So I don't think it's fair to be affecting a new business that way, but that just may be me. Also, again, parking is an issue, and it's not only on Sunday morning when you've got 2 groups maybe using the church and one using the center. You've also got times like very large funerals. You have Memorial Day, you have Veterans Day. When the parking lot is full, people are parking on Church Street again. all over Church Street, almost the entire length of Church Street. And again, if you're on Church Street and you only have one access out of there, which is Babusick, it's going to be a little hard getting cars out of there. So I think there's a lot of other considerations just because it's an old road. It might have been interesting to see how the horses got up there at one time, but I think, I'm not so sure closing it is a good idea either. But I'm willing to hear various thoughts on that.
Thank you. Tom?
Thanks. I mean, I listened to this argument back when this came up years ago, and I will not use that exit onto Babusick Lake because I think it's way too dangerous, and I fear for my life just thinking about coming down that hill and not knowing who's coming up or coming down DW Highway. Excuse me, not Babusick Lake, DW Highway. So I think it should be closed for that reason alone. I don't think it has safe access or safe egress off of that road onto DW Highway. I've always been concerned about that. I think a turnaround would have to be built. I don't, from this overhead picture that you have further on in your program, see any parking being eliminated unless that's an old picture and new parking has been striped since. And it doesn't stop access to the back of the restaurant to utilize that turnaround. I think the fire trucks would need that turnaround. People wouldn't be able to deal with it if they couldn't. And I understand the difficulty with getting off Church Street onto Babusick Lake Road. I think there might be things that we can do either by putting, what do they call the speed ribbons or something like that to tell people that you're approaching that, slow them down so they don't come flying through there. Not a speed hump or a speed bump because we'd see people flying, but if we put one of those multiple small bumps or something that rattles the cars when they go across them, fore and back of that blocked off area that says don't park here. I think those might be options to try and help people realize that that's a bad place for them to be sitting and they ought to let traffic out. So maybe there are some things that we can continue to do to try and help that exit. But the road onto DW Highway from when I moved here 30 years ago, I wouldn't use it, and I'm surprised that people do. It doesn't surprise me that Paul noticed an almost accident. I could see getting up there because you can see the traffic coming down, but I can't see coming out of there. And so I think it's a nightmare waiting to get somebody in serious trouble, and would definitely support closing that off for that reason alone.
Nancy?
Thank you. I was just wondering, when we're talking about egress from Church Street onto Babusick Lake Road, has there been thought of how that might impact the use of the cemetery, that people might try to divert from that and then start using the cemetery to, I mean, that's a pretty narrow, little bumpy road, and I just see if traffic was backed up, there was no other way, that I can imagine, because I might do that, which is, you're not supposed to, but if you're sitting there for a period of time that we're talking about, I just don't know what that would mean for the road going through the cemetery and what impact that might have on the cemetery. Yes.
Just remember that cemetery is a private cemetery with its own board, so they can shut that road down if they feel. And there are chains that they do put across it at certain events.
I drop a couple of grandchildren off at school in the morning, and I do know that heading eastbound on Babusick Lake Road backs up puts me to go down Hillside Terrace to avoid it. So that would be a nightmare in the morning, and that's something that I think the school district's planning and building committee should look at to see if there's a better path for flowing, because it just binds up with the buses and everything, and the student drop-offs going in McElwain Street, and so it just backs it all up for not a long time, but it's enough that if you're trying to go to work, you can't get out of Church Street. So, but anyhow, so I think closure is essentially what I think would have to happen, but I would like these options looked at, how we can best, whether it's through the use of retaining walls and so on, how we can best address that upper portion, to not eliminate parking, to maybe, as I think you had suggested, better signage, having some, enforcement. If people shouldn't be parking in a place, it might become more important to implement and enforce different things. But so I don't know what Don and the engineers and everybody could come up with in that regard.
Chris, can you get us a couple options? You heard some of the concerns out there. You heard some of the council's concerns on, tearing it off or retaining a portion of the slope to expand some of the parking at the library. Is that possible? I know you can do it, but is it feasible?
We can do it.
I know. Is it feasible for you to put that into the design of if that is eliminated, what it would look like with a couple of options, like we did with the turn lanes and things of that sort?
Yes, it's definitely feasible to come up with a few concepts to present and share with everyone.
So what he doesn't have right now, which is the topography, is all of the
Sure.
location, the current location for up there. We need to get the surveyors back out in order to be able to answer a lot of these questions. Because as you see, this is a flat, looks nice and flat. Well, it's not so flat. There's driveways and whatnot. And I do believe that the restaurant has made accommodations for parking, whether it be in the church or whether at the senior center. But I think there were some, that nothing was made during planning board? No? Okay, okay.
No. The two,
Okay.
the two noted.
No? Okay. Somebody had said, in passing, I had heard that, so. I didn't go back and look at the deeds. I didn't go back and look at the plans.
Let me, Bill, if you don't mind, I'm gonna have Andy, he had some comment or questions, I'm not sure, but if you don't mind.
And I apologize for not being here when this started. The impetus to close this, is it a safety concern or is it the fact that we're trying to put a sidewalk across the bottom?
That's, the sidewalk is,
This,
yeah.
well, and I heard a lot of safety comments, but the police chief, he wrote a letter, said there had only been 9 accidents there in the last 10 years. And so,
That's 9 more than we ought to have, that close to life, in my opinion.
well, 1 is more than we would like, right? But at the same time, if you compare that, how does that compare to some other intersection? Is that more dangerous or about average? Reading the chief's letter, I didn't get a huge safety concern. And I want to clarify or make sure I understand Don's comment. We said the standard is an 8% grade. Is that what you said? And you don't think we could get this to an 8% grade? Is that?
No,
I understood that correctly.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
And yes, 8% is usually the standard that you would design to, like a new road, that type thing.
And so if it's roughly 16 now, you would basically double the length of that hill in order to get it to 8%, which would
That and
put it back
some
to the
more
adult center.
to push it back, yes.
Okay, thanks.
You'd really impact the driveways up at the top of that hill
Yeah.
by doing that.
Thank you.
Bill would like to, this is, no, come, Bill, this is normally just for the public's consumption. It's a public hearing that's been closed, but I'd like to hear from the butters anyhow, so that's why, feel free to absolutely do it.
Okay, I just wanted to, look,
I just don't want to be violating our rules and people think I didn't know what we were
Sorry.
doing, that's all.
I just wanted to comment about Mr. Koenig's comments. It's a rumble strip, I think, is what you're talking about,
Yeah.
coming up Babusick Lake Road. And we were instrumental in getting this big square painted on the road down there because it's got a dog leg off of Church Street into McWellen, and it's always a nightmare to try to get out on the roadway there. But I think he was talking about a rumble strip is what I just wanted to comment.
Yep,
Thanks, Bill.
I was, and I appreciate your helping there.
Yeah, because he was cryptic about it, wasn't he?
I would put a long rumble strip there too, on both sides, but.
And I don't know if signage would help in any fashion, because we were part of that conversation, Bill, back in the, 12 or 13, whatever years ago, and,
2012.
yeah, I don't think there's any signage up, it was just painted on, as an attempt to see if people
Yeah,
be
it
a
says
bit
do
more
not
courteous.
block.
It
On
does,
the
there
road.
is signage
On the
to
road,
it?
it says do not block.
Oh, on the,
or something.
okay, yeah, so,
Or
Yes.
it did before it faded.
it never was put back on. All
We
right.
can fix that.
Yeah, I know, but it doesn't.
I know.
Yeah.
Rumble strip, they're gonna have an interesting time plowing that in the winter. That's
Yeah.
all I'm gonna say about that.
Rumble strips are a problem. Okay.
Mhm.
All right, so how,
So I've heard the council's comments, I've heard the public's comments. Dawn has taken a lot of notes. Chris has heard what everybody's said. We'll have him go back, work on a couple of designs, so to speak, nothing too technical detailed, but a couple of options that you can look at. And, before we move forward. Like I said, the reason why we started this process so early is because of the construction period. And we didn't want to start it in 2026 when we're going to be doing construction in the fall of 26 or the summer of 26. So we're trying to get our designs lined up in advance so that everybody is on the same page of what's happening. So I think we do have enough time to go back and look at this. Dawn, correct me if I'm wrong. But we do have enough time to come back and look at the concerns and try to get some options here with how it is and everything else. And you're right, there are a lot of cars that park, and there are a lot of cars that park all the way up. And you know, the fire chief is not going to say which way his apparatuses are gonna go if the road's closed. But I've seen fire engines go right through the library, where it says, right through the library, up through and around. And I've seen ambulance come down Church Street, but the engines go up the other way. So, it all depends on what apparatus is going to the scene, as how they would progress and actually attend that emergency if there is an emergency up there. The roundabout was just drawn in here. It's, like I said, it's just dropped in. We could look at where it might be in the whole scheme of things. Not the roundabout, the
turnaround.
The turnaround. The turnaround is kind of like, okay, it's there, but does the turnaround go more,
Be built out.
go closer to DW or less? It's just put there because that's the flattest part of the property right now. So those are all things that Chris and his team would be looking at to develop,
very good, I think that's a good plan.
if that's okay with the council.
I don't think we have an option.
I'd like to see what we.
Unless you want to vote now, is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
no, I think
Yeah.
I prefer to have some better ideas of what it's ultimately gonna potentially be, yeah.
So what we will have to do is, we're preparing another cost amendment to this project. And part of that was to include the survey crew, because we need to get them out doing a couple other things at the same time. So I wanted them out all at once, to do it all at the same time, and not keep bringing them back and forth, because that obviously costs more money. So I wanted to be able to get the scope of what you needed and what we wanted to look at, and then that will be able to help Chris. It's gonna take a little bit of time to be able to do that, but I did wanna make the abutters aware that we will have survey crews out there, and I can have them knock on the doors when they're gonna be there, or I can email those that I have the emails for, or something of that nature. But there will be people roaming around out there getting the data that we're going to need to be able to do this
Very good.
additional work.
And
Great.
Finley, you
like
sit
plan.
on the Highway Safety Committee, and you might want to bring up the other issues about blocking the intersections and stuff like that at that, because I believe signage runs through that as well, the Highway Safety Committee.
Yep, we've done
So,
that, yes, absolutely.
That would be one of the steps too, that Dawn and you can work on, getting the committee together to talk about potential, how to deal with some of that situation.
So we'll have more than one meeting this year, that'll be. I appreciate that. All right, so is everybody good with this at this moment? Very good, thank you, Chris, appreciate all this, and
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, folks, for coming out.
all right. Right, we'll move on then. Legislative updates. Anybody of our legislative delegation here? See Nance.
I just have one, since I forgot my glasses and can't read my papers. Today, oh, thank you, Barbara. It's like, oh, man, Dollar Tree, where are you? Anyway, yes, today we actually voted on a number of bills this afternoon. And one of the ones that I think is really important to us, and it's HB 1649, and it passed this afternoon. It's relative to prohibiting certain products with intentionally added PFAS, and it will take things out of the waste stream, keep our landfills a little clearer, like carpeting and those kinds of PFAS-treated carpeting. It's for products that have intentionally added PFAS. It was Karen Ebel's bill, and Representative myself, Representative Bill Boyd, Maureen Mooney, Wendy Thomas, Rosemary Runger, all co-sponsors, as was Senator Chanley. And it passed today, 233 to 140, which is really huge for a PFAS bill. So very, very exciting, very exciting news. And it's not legislative news, but for people that may not have known, the EPA was here, was it yesterday? I'm losing track of time. To make an announcement about new PFAS enforceable MCLs, which again will really, help communities, ours included, but other communities that have not yet been as contaminated as we are. Those are the only two I think that I'll talk about, but it was a big win for environmentally impacted communities and people worried about public health related to PFAS. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Mr. Chair, I didn't receive any legislative updates, but we do have a couple of guests from Bedford here tonight to talk about Beals Road. And I was just wondering if we could move that up next.
Yes, absolutely, without
To
objection.
move that before, I can do my town manager's only two things, but to,
You don't want them to stay and enjoy
I know they love
Will they allow
our,
us the same if we have to go there?
yes, hopefully they will, but, I know they want to stay until 11 o'clock when we probably get to Beals Road, but.
No, I appreciate you bringing that up, because
So-
without objection, we can move up new business number 3 forward. It's for the council to consider the request to withdraw up to $9,000 from the Road Infrastructure Capital Reserve Fund for the town of Merrimack's portion of the Beals Road Bridge Replacement Project, which is a tiny corner, so.
Yeah, Don's here, and like I said, we do have a couple of guests from Bedford they can come up as well. This was brought to our attention while now Bedford's been working on replacing this portion of Beals Road Bridge, which for those people that don't know, it's near Parkhurst Drive, and it comes off of Woodward Drive in that area. And that's really, I guess, one of the northwest corners of the town of Merrimack that intersects with Bedford. And Bedford was looking at redesigning the bridge, and when they were doing their review of it, they understand that some of the portion is in Merrimack. And now that they have this up, I can stop talking and they can take it away from here.
But you were doing so well. So this is Brian DeFosis. I knew I was I'm bad with last names. He's the town engineer in Bedford, and we have Mr. Foote here, who is the DPW director for Bedford also. Yes, before you tonight is the Beals Road. So let me advance slide. As Paul had said, it's at the intersection of basically at the Woodward and Parkhurst Road, and it crosses that little brook. So this is where the area is, where the bridge is. And you can see there's a town line that runs through it. So being the pain that I usually am, I requested that we have this town line surveyed so we could find exactly where the line was, because we were having different percentages throughout the years, because as Paul said, this has been going on for a number of years also. I don't know when it began, but basically that's it's been a while. So this is a blow up of the area. One thing I do want to note before I move on this slide is one of my requests was also to narrow up Parkhurst, because if you ever have been down there, it used to be a T intersection, so that you could go both ways. And they never took away the wide sweep from the original road. So some of the concerns that were brought up during the meetings, the public hearings that we've had what, three?
Three.
About three.
Yep.
was the safety, the amount of speed that people go, because they come around that corner and they go blasting up the hill. So what they're doing as part of this project is to cut away some of the pavement area so that hopefully we'll have a slower intersection. You'll have to actually slow down to be able to make the turn instead of
Actually make a
sweep up.
turn.
Right. So that's also going to be done as part of this project. So I did a blow up of that area. Actually, I believe Brian did. So this town line is this blue line here between Bedford and Merrimack. And you'll see this little red triangle down here in the corner. That's the part of the bridge that's actually in Merrimack. You'll also see there is one wing wall that is in Merrimack. This little triangle is about 3% overall of the whole bridge. When you do all of the math and you include all the guardrails, which are these green things that are all in Merrimack, plus the wing wall that we will be responsible for, we come up with a total of about 15% for the overall project. So this bridge, to back up a little bit, it is under the red listed bridges, correct?
Yes.
The town line is, as I said, I made them survey and go through so we had an accurate number for how much of the bridge is within Merrimack and how much the bridge is in Bedford. The construction part, so you know all about the construction. We've gone through a number of these bridges. So the construction part of their bridge is being funded 100% through the state, correct? There's no federal, is it?
Our bridge.
Your
Yes.
Your bridge.
Your bridge, sorry. It's been a
bridge.
long day, so. So you also know that usually we have an 80-20 split for construction, but they're lucky enough to be able to have 100%. So that
Before you
leaves.
leave, you can tell us how you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, good evening. Thank you for entertaining our informative session tonight, but, yeah, it's a little difficult to figure out a percentage based on a wing wall, right? And, Merrimack would essentially have one wing wall, Bedford would have three. How do you convert that into a percentage, Brian? So I have been around and doing mathematical calisthenics with this thing, between Dawn and I, and my boss, Jeff Foote, who's sitting in the rear of the hall tonight. So essentially what happened was, we actually looked at the footing, the footing calculations for square footage. So even though there's only 3% of the bridge that's in plan view that you would be able to see, the actual footing comes out to 9.2%. And that's because those footings are basically perpendicular to Beals Road, or what would be called Woodward Road in Merrimack. And the side that's to the west is more into Merrimack, so that's why that percentage goes up. So it's 9.2% of the plan view area of the footings. And then in addition to that, we took 25% of 25%. So one wing wall, we assumed to be a quarter of the structure. So 25% of 25%, added to 9.2 comes up to 15%. So effectively 15% is in Merrimack and 85% is in Bedford. Now, you'll notice I didn't mention things like pavement or guardrail or anything like that, but those are all incidental. But essentially, Merrimack's getting a lot of pavement and a lot of guardrail as part of this that's incidental to the project, but not reflected in that calculation. Honestly, a lot more than Bedford is, but we're trying to work cooperatively and advance the project along, and we had to pick a percentage, so that's how we came up with it. So if you do the math on the 20% match, if you multiply 20% times 15%, which would be Merrimack's share, you come up with the number of 3%. Exactly. Just happens to work out that way. And if you multiply Bedford's 85% times 20%, you come up with 17%. And so Bedford is responsible for 17% of the preliminary engineering and right-of-way costs, and Merrimack would end up at 3%. And if you do all the calculations, you realize that this 2-point-something million dollar bridge ends up costing the town of Merrimack something on the order of $9,000 and costing Bedford something on the order of $45,000.
I tried to get Bedford to pay our $9,000, but honestly, from discussions with the town manager, it's true. We do the same thing if we were doing a project. It isn't right for the town of Bedford's people to pay the section of the bridge that technically is in Merrimack for another community. And we would do the same thing, vice versa, if we were doing a bridge in Bedford or if we were doing a bridge in Amherst. We'd also look at where it does line. The reason why this bridge is unique in everything is because of the way the town line runs. I was out there, this project started a long time ago, and I was out there in the woods almost a year ago, and I was like, wait a second, there's a monument right there. There's a monument right there. The bridge is in Bedford. If you drew a straight line, the bridge would be in Bedford, but there isn't a straight line there. It's at the diagonal. So that's why Don went through and we got the survey on it. What we're really here is tonight is that we have the money set aside in a capital reserve for the infrastructure capital reserve fund to come out for our portion, $9,000, to give Bedford the agreement, allow me to sign the agreement. And we have the money set aside so that when we start going forward and this project is progressed even more with Bedford, I don't know if you got your full allotment of funds yet, because you have to gross appropriate.
That's right. So we did receive approval from our town council in Bedford last night for the intermunicipal agreement and to enter into the agreement with DOT. Assuming that we move forward tonight, the intent would be into final design and discussions with the butters in the coming months, looking to get it on our March ballot in Bedford and hopefully award a bid shortly after that, which would put construction towards the tail end of 2025, which is honestly about 6 months later than I thought it was going to be about a month ago. So if you do review any of the minutes from the meeting that we had here, we were hopeful we were going to be able to start construction in February. So it looks like that's going to be pushed out 6 months, but still within the same calendar year.
So that's where we are, but to sign the intermunicipal agreement and so that this project can keep rolling. Like I said, I would love to have Bedford pay for it all, but good conscience won't let me do that. And the town manager over there, we had discussions about this going back and forth. So it started out at 30,000 and to get it down to 9. It's
I'm impressed with the calculations. That's very good.
and you know, I don't want to hear anything about beat me in the math geek anymore.
Yeah, I got a couple. What is PE
Professional engineer.
and row?
So DOT calls that preliminary engineering,
Oh,
which is actually not that preliminary, but that's what they describe
Okay.
everything before final engineering.
And what does row mean?
Right of way.
Right of
So,
way.
in
'Cause-
order to do this project, if I continue through the rest of my notes here, the agreement with the town of Bedford will cost $7,461.89, is what we came down to with all of his math that we just went through, all of Brian's math. The other part of that is that we have to acquire a temporary and permanent slope and drainage easement from one of the abutters, because they're gonna have to move one of the drainage lines in the area, and it's gonna impact their property. They've just gotten in a preliminary estimation, we're talking about, what, $700 to $800 for payment for that easement. So that was the second part of that $9,000 that we're requesting, because I don't have the exact figure. We're still working through that at this point.
So just to jump in here, Dawn, sorry. Those numbers actually can't be released publicly. It has to be basically gone through a DOT vetting process. So we hear something, it has to go through DOT. Once DOT approves it, then we can actually discuss it publicly with the affected parties.
And my point was, we've got enough to be able to cover that with the 9,000 we estimated. So,
A follow-up. And why is all of a sudden we need an easement Because, why?
It's actually. for
It's been there all along, so
Well,
what's different in the reconstruction?
They're moving the drainage they're making the bridge a little bit wider, a little bit bigger. So that impacts the drainage that's there now, and so they're going to be fixing that, and then there's the slope of the road and, making adjustments. Plus, they're gonna have to move, actually, one of the telephone poles where we're taking the pavement away, is gonna be a spot where we can put the telephone pole, because they have certain rules about how the lines have to go, and they have to be over pavement. So in taking away a little piece of the pavement on our side, we're able to put the pole in to be able to accommodate everything that Eversource needs to be able to meet. So, did I answer your question?
And that's it's a narrow bridge right now. 2 cars on the bridge basically are touching mirror to mirror. So they're making it a little bit wider and a little bit safer for vehicle traffic on that bridge.
Yeah, if I could just jump in for a second. The existing bridge is 23 feet wide by 23 feet long. The new bridge conceptually will be 36 feet wide by 36 feet long. So it's 13 feet wider in both directions. And it's actually, the downstream side will actually stay where it is. It will be 13 feet to the upstream side. And actually, the bridge is actually shifting 5 feet towards Bedford. So that's why those easements are necessary, because it's bigger, and if you notice right now, it's actually like a 9.5-foot lane, not even a 10-foot lane, and there's no shoulder on the bridge. So if somebody was walking on the bridge and 2 cars were going by, there wouldn't be enough room for everybody. And I'd have to think that the plow blade is probably well over the double yellow line during a snowstorm. So,
All right.
So what we're here tonight is to be able to allocate the $9,000, up to $9,000, and to have Paul be able to sign all the documents. There's a couple of different documents that he's gonna need agreements that he needs to sign.
Very good.
And those agreements have already been vetted by our legal counsel.
Yes, I did have them done.
Okay.
Did you hear me? All the agreements have been vetted by legal counsel.
Oh, okay. Any further questions? Tom?
I would make a motion to approve the withdrawal of up to $9,000 from the Road Infrastructure Capital Reserve Fund for Merrimack's portion of this Beals Road project, and to authorize the town manager to sign all documents.
Second.
Motion by Tom Koenig, second by Nancy Murphy. Any further discussion?
I think we're
on the
getting a
motion?
great deal here, and we ought to
I'm
just
with it.
take it, sign it, and go. And appreciate the efforts of everybody involved in putting this together. The road
Brian's
will be a
worked
heck of a lot
really
safer
hard.
built this way.
No,
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Tom. Any further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed or abstain? 700. Thanks, bro.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Have a
And
good night.
one last question for you. The road will be closed during the construction?
It will be.
Okay.
Because we have to go all the way down to the base
So
of the
just-
brook and
yeah.
build it back up. So there is a detour plan in place, which I believe I've shared with you, Don, I
Right.
believe it was part of the public,
I
the
think it
3
was,
public.
as I was here.
But I just want to get that out, because not everybody reads the backup.
Okay.
But in 25, we'll bring this back up when we're getting closer, but just so everybody knows, this will be closed to the public when the construction is, which will make the construction a lot easier and a lot quicker.
How long do they expect the construction to take?
You know, honestly, it's difficult to tell you right now, because we have to select a contractor. There are certain things that are inherent with environmental permits, such as sensitivity to long-eared bats and aquatic species and things like that. And so it may come that certain things have to be done before other things, or that certain things have to hold off within the brook until a certain time period. That will all come to fruition. Dawn and I have been working very closely on this, and I will make sure that we together inform.
Yeah, the
inform
question
you.
is, how long does it take to do the construction? Is it
Yeah.
a 3-month project or a 6-month project? Once you start closing the road until you can open it again. I don't care how long the permitting takes, that's gonna delay start.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is the permit may have some constraints. I'm estimating ballpark, it's going to be around 3 months.
Okay.
Could be a little longer, could be a little shorter, depending on the contractor.
It's depending upon weather and everything else too,
Sure, yeah.
as usual with construction, but thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank
Thanks, Don.
Thank you, good night.
And Don, don't you leave.
Yes.
You've got,
Town manager's report.
yes, please, thank you, Paul.
So I have a couple things. Yesterday, as Councilor Murphy alluded to, the Citizens for Clean Water event was held here in the Matthew Thornton Room. It will be played on Channel 22 throughout the week, and it's available on Merrimack TV app. Is Grace out back? Grace, can you come to the door real quick, please? Come on, Grace.
What, am I in trouble?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's all right. That's all right. I just want everybody to know that Grace is being recognized by the Rotary Club this year for Rotary Club's Excellence in Workplace event on April 25th. We greatly appreciate Grace's commitment to community media, providing services to the residents and the stories that she tells through Merrimack Moments series, and it is a well-deserved recognition. I just want to congratulate you, Grace, for this award. You're welcome. And you probably can leave that on because Dawn's going to be up in 2 seconds. It's the Dawn show tonight, so.
Perfect. That's
Thank
it?
you. That's it.
Thanks, Paul. She's one of, I have to say also that.
We need to recognize somebody else. Do you wanna?
I would also like to recognize the town manager, Paul McCallie. The town council has put him up to receive the Excellence in the Workplace Award as well by the Merrimack Rotary. Paul goes above and beyond in his role. He shows up at town events. He gets to know the people of our town, and he's always trying to find ways to make our town a better place. So I also would like to give a round of applause to Paul for all that he does for our town.
Absolutely.
And does he want to raise now? Is that what's going on?
You're supposed to wait till after.
Thanks, Mackenzie. I have to say that Grace actually is in much better shape than she was at the elections because she traveled for 10 hours back from the eclipse up north.
Oh my
And Justin actually beat her by 2 hours. He was 12 hours to get back from up north. And yeah, so I was impressed and absolutely jealous that I didn't go up when I saw those pictures. But anyhow, next on the agenda is consent agenda. And on the consent agenda,
Nice segue.
it's the council's affirmation of the satisfactory evaluation of the town manager, Paul McCallie. So if somebody'd like to move.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Tom Koenig, seconded by Nancy Harrington. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 700. And thank you, Paul, very much.
Dawn's here for Continental as well, but if you want to just go through some of the other items in the new business, and then we can circle back to try to get Paul and.
Let's see.
So
So do you want to do the,
two, no business?
If you just go to number 1 in new business, I guess, and then do 1 and 2 this way, and 3.
all right, yeah.
Yeah, so then it'd stop at number 5 and we
Okay,
can go back.
so without objection, we'll move to new business, item number 1. Council will confirm the appointment of the new finance director pursuant to Charter Article 7, Section 8.
As you know, I hired a new finance director, Paul Calabria. He comes with over 20 years' experience in the finance realm. He has previous finance director experience in the town of Milford and the town of Hollis, as well as he brings a unique perspective. He was the assistant of business manager for the City of Nashua School District. So with all that experience, it brings a breath of fresh air and understanding municipalities and moving forward with budgets and things of that sort. And he came in Wednesday and said, okay, what happened at the elections? And we told him, he goes, okay, default, I need to start doing this, this, and this, which is nice because he understands how finance works, how DRA works, how banking industry in New Hampshire works. So it was a great find for him, and he's coming from Milford, so wish him a long and successful career here in Merrimack.
Yep. And welcome aboard, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're looking forward to a great time, I'm sure,
Thank
especially
you.
with the default budget.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, nothing
Certainly
like a challenge on
and
day
an
one.
opportunity.
Huh?
Perfect.
Two Nancys, two Pauls.
I know, I don't know.
I get 2 Andys if you want.
I was gonna say, when's the second?
We had
annual?
3 Toms at one point.
We
but-
did have 3 times. The difficulty of having multiple, more than one name is then I have to start using last names. So it lengthens our meeting, I'm sure. But
So do we need a motion to?
Yes, you need a motion to affirm per our Charter Article 7-8.
So moved.
Confirm.
To confirm.
motion by Barbara,
Nancy.
seconded by Nancy Murphy. Any further discussion on the motion? See none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed or abstain, 700.
Thank you.
So now we can say welcome, Paul, and thank you for joining us, and
Yes.
good luck with your default budget.
Thank you very much.
All right. Item
Right,
number 2, the council to be presented with an update on the New Hampshire Department of Transportation's Transportation Alternatives Program project awarded to the town of Merrimack, consisting of the construction of the sidewalk from Chamberlain Bridge to the 360 Plaza, and to allow the town manager to sign the
This really
documents.
is a darn night, isn't it?
It is the Dawn Show. She'll be up several times tonight.
Might as well just stay up there now.
We, a couple of years ago, Dawn went and applied for a TAP grant, knowing that the town council would love to fill in the pockets of sidewalk from Chamberlain Bridge all the way up to the 360 outlets. I know that's been a planning board wish, is to get the sidewalk in, and I know it's been a town council objective and goal over the years to provide sidewalks on some of our major thoroughfares. And by going and using federal money to try to save at 80% reimbursement for these projects is a great way for these projects to get done, and it costs the town of Merrimack a lot less than if we had to do it ourselves. So now that Dawn and Leo are here, set up and got their folders open, take it away, Dawn.
So just before you get started, you said from Chamberlain Bridge up to 360 Highway, but that's actually south on DW Highway, right? To 360. I would have called that down to it, but just because maps usually are oriented that way. But I wanted to make sure people understand the orientation we're talking about, where we're going.
We're going,
South from Chamberlain
to
Bridge, or
360.
from the fire department to 360. Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So we did apply for, into 2022, another TAP grant, which is a Transportation Alternatives Program, TAP. I was lucky enough to get that awarded. I think they awarded 6 that year out of like 40, 45 applicants. It's not easy to get these grants, but we try every day to be able to do that. So, as Paul said, goes from the Chamberlain Bridge, which is, right now the sidewalk crosses on the east side, and it comes down the road. It stops before you get to Railroad Ave. So we need to be able to pick that up, get the pedestrians across the street, cross Daniel Webster Highway, and then continue down the highway. And if you drive down through that road, right now, you know that there's a section of sidewalk, nothing. Section of sidewalk, nothing. And there always are people walking that section down through there. So this would actually construct and fill in about 3,600 feet. So it will, that whole distance is about 3,600 feet, so it's about 3/4 of a mile. We were awarded $1.7 million for this grant. It was originally proposed to be done in 2032. So that's when we got on, because what they're doing now, realizing that these projects take years before we can get through all of the steps. They were like, oh yeah, you gotta do it within the next couple of years. It doesn't happen because of all the work that we have to do behind the scenes. You know, we have to go out and find an engineer now to be able to do this project. And there's a lot of requirements behind all of this. So In addition to that, we are also going to be doing some drainage work, because if you drive down through that section, there are a lot of puddles, there's no catch basins. If we put a sidewalk in, we have to do it raised, a granite curb, with a sidewalk, 5-foot sidewalk behind that. What that does is it blocks all the drainage from going off the road. Therefore, we have to put in what's called a closed system, and we have to be able to outlet that. So hence, the amount of work and the large amount of money for that sidewalk, because it's not just the sidewalk, it is drainage and other work that needs to be done. This is, since it's a TAP grant, it will be 80-20 split again. And this will also provide safety for those pedestrians and tie everything together, like I said, because some of them, they have to step out and into the road, and that's not what we want to have happen in that area. Like I said, it's going to include the drainage. I received a letter about 2.5 weeks ago, and the state has told me that they want to move this project up, which means I have to start like now. They want to move it up to the year 2027, which is great for us. So they're going to take it out of 2032 and move it up 5 years, which is great, except it puts a lot of work to get all of this set up and going. But I don't want to say, oh, no, we'll wait, because we have a lot of projects coming up in 2032. That's the year that we've been assigned many of our projects. So we're trying to get them brought forward. If you are ready, they will bring you forward. So that is one thing. So right now, there are just documents, agreement documents that we have to sign with the state for getting all of this started, and to be able to say, yes, we have the money, we'll be, setting it aside, and we'll be able to do our share. So we're requesting tonight that the town council give the town manager the approval to be able to sign any of the documents. And soon, I'm sure we will be coming with requests for money to be able to sign up the engineers that need to work. But it's going to take a little bit of time to get to that point. Another project.
Tom?
So I'm going to be negative for a minute here, and I apologize for that, because I really would like to see this project go forward. But our last experience with the TAP grant, the costs just kept escalating and escalating, and we finally merged multiples together, and we haven't even finished it yet underneath the Chamberlain Bridge. Are you expecting this to go differently, and why?
Yes, because this is not that project. That project,
Well, I understand.
half of it was buried. We couldn't get to, access down below. We couldn't find what we needed to know. There were a lot of surprises on that, and I went through that the last time, between the ledge and where things were, and we made some assumptions that the engineers had, and they were wrong assumptions. We weren't allowed to get out into the wetlands to do the work that we needed to find the ledge out there. So they made an assumption on the helical piles that need to go in. They were too short, so we've had to, expend. So yes, and the costs are still climbing. We're doing our best, but we had a very productive meeting again this afternoon, after a meeting Tuesday afternoon. So we're in constant contact. This I do not anticipate. We can see the road, we know what it is, and, we've got a better idea. I know where, like there's underground cables, I know where, there's other things that go along with this. So I don't anticipate going the way we did before.
And in addition, with this project, it's different than the project of the walkway, is because there is a road there, and we can always stop and say, this is how much money we have, this is how far we can go. And that's that. Whereas you're in for a pound, you're in for, a lot, because of the helical piles. That was the assumption. The other things, to complete that And you can't really just stop that project because it's more fluent, whereas this project is on a main road with a sidewalk, and we say, okay, this is what $1.7 million gets us today. Remember, Dawn said we went in 2 years ago, and we were guesstimating, 1.7, construction costs have gone up, things of that sort. So we might not be able to get all the way to 360, but we'll get a great portion of that road, a significant portion, from the Chamberlain Bridge to 360 to be completed.
So I agree with what you're saying. The question, I guess, is if you put forth the grant request for 3,600 feet, it's legitimate to stop at 2,400 if you run out of money? Or are they gonna come back and say, you guys need to finish this?
With the trail, we did, because that trail was supposed to go all the way up to the pedestrian bridge and upgrade that whole section. We realized early on that it could not happen, so that's why we pulled it back and put it to the end of where the trail actually is today. There was a plan to go all the way up through. And I do want to say, with the trail project, we had a lot of permitting. It took 2 years just to get through the wetlands. We were on Sauhegan River. That is a protected river. So we had shoreland, we had AOT, we had historical, there was a lot of things and artifacts that, we just, and bats and whatever else. It was, but with the Daniel Webster Highway, I'm hoping I don't run into any wetlands along the road. And that was a big part. It took 2 years of engineering to get through some of that process. And we had to go through the shoreline protection, and that takes, they all just take time and money. And that's why that kept escalating, and it went way up because the state required these helica piles with these concrete boardwalk, instead of doing the nice wooden boardwalk that we wanted to do. So they made, every agency we went through made us do more on this project, and it just escalates.
And so I guess my main question is, do you anticipate similar kinds of things here? You're telling me no, but every agency you go through is gonna have some other requirement for the drainage or the sidewalk or the curbing or the signage or who knows what. And I'm nervous getting into another TAP program because so many agencies jumped in and put on their own requirements that escalated the cost. We had to worry about how to get across DW Highway, whether we could go underneath or go over or have to go down and put a light up or do something. It was just absolutely crazy. And yet you're talking about moving pedestrians across DW Highway somewhere south of the Chamberlain Bridge.
So those would be, some of the pedestrian lights in a crosswalk or something of that nature, or going down to where the lights are now down by the old Rite Aid. And putting one at that intersection instead of having them come across that big, wide expanse area. Those are things we'd have to be engineered. We'll go through fewer agencies with doing this project than what we had to go through with the other one.
Just DES.
Spotted lizards, don't have to worry about any of that.
Well, I'm hoping we don't have to go to DES, because we don't need the wetlands, we don't need the shoreland, and,
Just on the surface, for me, it seems like it should be a boatload easier, but I know exactly
Oh,
what you're
gosh,
saying.
yeah.
So,
Should be.
Who would have guessed?
The world is, the road to hell is
Believe
paved,
me,
it should be.
I'm pulling out my hair every day with this project.
Yeah, I
I'm just like, I'm surprised I have anything left, and it's already turning super gray, and
That's
it's gonna be
because I
white
can't
pretty
pull
soon.
my hair out. So
just do it for you. The amount of
I just don't want to start pulling mine out. Thank you very much.
Yes, I'm jealous. Andy?
So looking at the agreement, it says it's programmed for 2032, and it took the 2024 cost and it inflated it by 3.7% per year. So if we pull this into 2027, we're basically cutting off 4 years of that inflation. Are you telling me these numbers have a 15% reserve in them? Is that what we're saying?
This is the contract that I have right now, and that would be the amount up to that we would.
For 2032?
2032.
But if we pull this in for 4 years, these numbers, then you're telling me there's about a 15% reserve in here.
I understand what you're saying.
And
You're
this
asking,
is-
is this number going to be 1.7 times 85%?
Yeah, and, well, to alleviate some of Tom's concern is if this is inflated through 2032 and we're pulling this into 2027, there's some budget reserve in this number.
Right.
Okay. I just wanted to vocalize some of the worry and concern and
I
bring it
fully
out in the open
understand.
and make sure that we're not just
You're in my thoughts and
Smoking
my my speakings every day.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom and Andy. Is there any further questions?
Okay, what kind of a motion do you need?
I
Just for
need,
signature?
yeah, to allow the town
Signing.
manager to sign all necessary documents to begin the Daniel Webster Highway sidewalk expansion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by
what I was
Nancy
hoping
Harridan,
you'd do.
second by Tom. It was too easy.
Well,
Would you
I've
like
got 'em.
Would you like to further discuss your motion?
No, I think it's pretty obvious.
And is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose or abstain? 700. All right. Thank you on that, Don. Number 4, oh, here we go, let me get up there. Council will consider requests to read and sign the National Public Works Week proclamation. Don?
This is a great proclamation for the town of Merrimack, for the people that keep our roads clear, our drains clean. The guys and ladies at wastewater, solid waste, and the highway division are really some unsung heroes during a major events that we do have. And they work definitely behind the scenes. You really don't see them except if they're in their big truck plowing your road and making sure you can get to and from work. You know, and plowing your driveway in with piles of snow, but that.
I forgive them.
Yeah, I forgive them for that, you know. But no, seriously, on all seriousness, there, these gentlemen and ladies of the public works departments do yeoman's work for this town of Merrimack, and they are the unsung heroes. And they do. They're plowing 24, 36 hours straight to make sure that everybody's safe. And if there's a big storm or trees are down, like the last snowstorm we had, they're out there with their chainsaws making sure that Eversource can come in and put your power back on, and Comcast can come in there, and they're pushing stuff off to the side of the road to open up roads. And this is just a great event every year for these guys, and 1 week doesn't do it justice, but at least it's a step in the right direction.
I say it almost every year when we talk about this, it's an extremely committed group of people. I've always heard the story of my brother-in-law was a cop in Nashua, and he said you have to pay them to hold a pager. You gotta almost plead with them to respond to the pager, and most of the time they drag their feet till they come in almost at their normal working hours. Our guys get started, and they generally don't go home until it's complete, I would say. And so, so they're a great crew to have around, and we definitely appreciate them. But, Don, did you want to speak to?
Thank you. Well, I will start, but I feel it's fitting because Leo started on the week that we held our Public Works Day. It was one of his first days there. So I think it's appropriate that I'm going to hand it off to him. And plus, you're probably tired of listening to me tonight.
Good evening, everyone. The National Public Works Week will begin the week of May 19th to the 25th. The Department of Public Works would like to request that the Town Council read and sign this year's proclamation declaring the week as Public Works Week. This year's theme is Advancing Quality of Life for All. During the week, we'll be holding an annual training session on May 22nd, that Wednesday. During the day, we'll have a training session in the morning, followed by a luncheon and afternoon camaraderie session with all the divisions. This year's training is going to be on how to diffuse escalating volatile situations. The Merrimack Police Department is going to be hosting that training. So,
It's very hard to be able to get an activity or a training session because all of our divisions are very diverse. You have to understand that. We have 6 divisions. We're very diverse. So it's hard to find something. So in today's atmosphere, what I was thinking about was everybody has to deal with the public in some regards, you know, whether it be at the transfer station or the highway. You meet them sometimes on their own property. You know, there's different situations, and people today are getting, some of them are getting very angry, and I think it's important that our guys know how to diffuse that, how to use their words to be able to step back and to handle that properly without getting it escalated. And that's when I went to the police chief and asked him, you know, if he could possibly help us this year and be able to put on a good presentation, because we don't have the guns, we don't have the tasers. There's no way, and especially if you're one-on-one, you need to know how to be able to address that. So that's why I thought this was a really important training session that we need to do this year.
Leo, do you have that proclamation? Or, I know you do, Finley, but do you have, I was just gonna say you could read it, or,
I'm sorry, I do not.
okay.
Usually Finley reads that.
I can do that. Should we vote on it first, or should?
read it, so you know.
So we know what we're voting on, okay. All right, it's National Public Works Week proclamation, May 19th through the 25th, 2024. And as was stated, the theme is advancing quality of life for all. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to the sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Merrimack, New Hampshire, and whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government who are responsible for maintaining, rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, highway systems, wastewater treatment, drainage, and solid waste systems, along with parks, public buildings, ball fields, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas in the public interest of the citizens, I apologize, whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Merrimack to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2024 marks the 64th Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association, be it now resolved, we, the Merrimack Town Council, do hereby designate the week of May 19th through the 25th, 2024, as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make toward protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. In witness whereof, we have hereunto set our hand and caused the seal of the state to be affixed, done at Merrimack, New Hampshire, this 11th day of April 2024. We have the proclamation right here. So if somebody would like to move that?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Barbara, seconded by Nancy Murphy. All those in favor of the proclamation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. 700. And please thank all of the hard workers at Public Works, and thank you to you folks as well.
Thank you.
Let's go to Town Hall. Yep. All righty. I'm tripping all over my tongue tonight.
No,
It's happened a few times.
Good thing you have some water there.
Yeah, which, so, all right, are we done with you, Don? What do we have?
No, we have
No.
Five.
No.
Oh, yes, so, okay.
She doesn't want to leave us.
No. We've moved around a little bit, so I just got caught off
Yeah,
guard.
exactly.
Item 5 under new business, council to consider the request to withdraw an additional $14,799.28 from the Roads Infrastructure Capital Reserve Fund to cover the cost of a second amendment to the Effie Everett Turnpike widening project. and this has to do with the pipe that's going across the highway was estimated apparently too short.
Correct. We have actually 4 sewer crossings in the section of the Effie Everett Turnpike in the widening project right now. This is the northmost crossing up by Dumpling Brook in that area. The section of road that they are working on right now between exit 12 and exit 13 in that area. So in order for us to protect our infrastructure, we entered into an agreement with the state of New Hampshire to sleeve our sewer pipe. And Don will take it away and explain why we are 11 feet short when they ordered the pipe and why they're coming in for additional money.
She's waiting for you, Tom, I can tell.
Yes. So the state is widening Effie Everett, that's one thing. And then they're also putting in a berm on that side so that they don't have the noise, the abutters don't have the noise in the area. When the plans were submitted to the state, because they always request, we are considered a utility. We have to pay for any utility work, just like we had to do on 101A, or we will have to do with our sewer. Well, we also have sewer up here. We had an as-built plan. Well, the as-built plan was from the 50s or wherever, whenever. Nobody verified the accuracy of that plan. That's all we had. And it could have been true a number of years ago. Maybe they widened it since then. I don't know what they've done out there. But the result is the existing sewer pipe ends right at the edge of the pavement that's out there. No, the contractor did not go out to investigate to see if that was true or not. Then they decide, okay, we're gonna go find that. So I sent Leo out. And lo and behold, they kept inching towards the Effie Everett. They know where the pipe is, they kept inching towards it until they found the sleeve. And the sleeve was right at the edge of the pavement. So that left an extra 11 feet that they didn't account for. So I had come in last year for $90,000 to be able to sleeve the length of pipe. Now they found out there's another 11 feet, so it's another $14,000 by the time we go through. So that's the long and the short of it. Paul and I had a discussion about that for the future and for the next one that we are already starting to enter into at this point. We are going to make sure that the language gets put in there that it's not on us. They need to go and verify that information. We're giving them the best we can. That language was not there at the last one. So it will be from now on.
I appreciate that.
And because it was funny, they were able to actually order 65 feet of pipe. These are 20-foot sections of pipe. Somebody cut off 15 feet and had a 5-foot piece in their lot. So they were able to order 65 feet. Well, now with this extra 11 feet, we can't order a pipe that's 11 feet. We have to order a 20-foot section. So Don and myself requested from the state, they use 20, 20, 20, cut the 20-foot pipe to where it needs to be, and we're taking the 9-foot piece and the 5-foot piece, and we're bringing it back to the shop since we already bought it.
You never know where else you can use it.
That's right. So, bless you. So, but that's, and the other reason why is we didn't want 20, 20, 25, 11. We didn't want all those joints. So we just wanted to make as little, many joint, and that was a suggestion Don made to make it as minimally possible, the number of joints in this area.
And that is in writing.
Pardon?
It is in writing.
Oh.
Good. What's the diameter of the pipe? Not important, I'm just curious.
No, the sleeve.
The sleeve, yes.
30. 30.
Yes, correct.
So the sleeve goes around the existing pipe?
Correct.
And there's no sleeve there now, is that right?
That's
Or-
correct, because it didn't need to be.
Okay,
Now there needs to be, because the pipe can't take the load from
the extra weight
that
they're
extra
gonna
weight
put on
of
over
the
the top.
berm that's going in.
So when you said they dug back and found the end of the pipe at the edge of the road, what did they find at the edge of the road?
What did they find?
I mean,
The
You-
the
you
end
said
of
the
the
sleeve.
sleeve. They found the edge of the sleeve where it begins. As
so
it,
there's a sleeve around it now or not?
that goes underneath the F.E. Everett.
The
Yeah.
existing part of the F.E. Everett, that's where the existing sleeve is. Because the road's being widened on both sides, that sleeve has to be extended. However, it was a little too short, and actually the short portion of that would have left us short underneath that giant berm. And we didn't feel comfortable by leaving our sewer main under all the weight of that berm.
Okay, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
understand how much we're having to do. Are you doing the entire distance underneath the Everett?
No.
Or just the ends on either side?
Just the end.
Just the end.
So we talk about 65 feet, 20/20 and 20 and 20 and taking off pieces, but you're putting a piece on either end, connecting to the current
The-
sleeve
the-
and
the-
extending out?
The east side does not require one because it goes up to the manhole. We're okay on the east
It's
side.
already
It's
sleeved
just
over
the
there.
west side of the
Just the
road.
And we need 65 more feet where they're expanding on the west side of the road.
Of sleeve, yes. This is just the sleeve. We had, before we began all of this, we had the pipe, the sewer pipe itself checked. It's still big enough and
So the sewer
It's
pipe's already
76.
there.
76.
It's 60 plus another, it was 65 plus 11 or 76 feet.
Yeah.
It's not 60, it was 65, but it's another 11 feet, so it's really 76 feet on the westerly side that we have to expand the sleeve because of the way they're running out that berm and the weight of that berm on the pipe.
Okay. It's confusing for me, and I'm sure for anybody that's watching, but I trust that you guys are well aware of what you're talking about. Because it sounds funny when you say you looked back and from the end of the pipe, and then you worked your way back to the highway, and as if the sewer pipe ends somewhere out there. It doesn't. It goes on further and further.
What
You're
they
just
did
trying to get the sleeve to the edge of to the far side of the berm.
to the
that they're talking
manhole,
about
yes.
To protect it.
To protect
protect
it,
it from the
right.
weight.
So they followed the existing sewer line out to where, or they started digging where they thought it should be. It wasn't there. So they started moving towards the pavement to try to find the sleeve itself that is underneath the F.E. Everett, because it is deep and it needs to have that sleeve around it to protect it.
I have no problem with the need for the sleeve. I was just trying to understand why they missed by 11 feet. And
The as-built plans just what they
Right.
showed.
And the new plan, the new expectation is to now have it worded in the contracts that they have to check it out because.
we have to
apparently-
confirm it, not just accept some old as-built
Yeah.
as being.
Yeah, which I think is a
'Cause we all
great
know
idea.
about
I didn't
that.
know, because,
We had no way of knowing, and we're not allowed to go out and dig up to find out for ourselves. I mean, we had to rely on the information that we had, and that's what we
well,
had.
and truthfully, even without the wording, it seems that Wright Pierce should be kind of on the hook for that. Because if they're just copying plans, I shouldn't be paying substantial money for a repeat of what we already have. But,
I agree with you.
We let them know that we're not happy.
It's not our era.
And now that we're moving with another one, they are very cautious
Now, the
with this other
reality
one
is, we
because
would
of
have
that.
had to pay for it anyway.
Correct.
It's just that, it's an additional thing at this point. And we would have paid for it even if it had been determined it to be this measurement back then.
right, but it's who should be paying for it. You know,
Well, we
we've
would
had
have
to.
paid for it then.
Yeah,
Well,
we
no.
would have had to pay for the extra 11 feet.
If they go to gotten it,
we
yeah, if
did
they
it,
would've
yeah.
gotten it.
Yeah, if we got it. Wright Pierce understands that we're not happy, and that's why when we talked about this,
It's
we
just
came
that-
up with the additional language saying that, here's the deal, we're giving you the numbers, and it kind of protects us too, because if they use numbers and they're wrong, it's not on us, it's on either the contractor or Wright Pierce.
Okay.
Lesson learned.
Yeah, nope, absolutely. All right, if there's no further discussion, What's the pleasure of the council? Where's Billy Boy when I need him?
I'll make the motion. I'd like to approve the withdrawal of an additional $14,799.28 from the Roads Infrastructure Capital Reserve Fund to cover the cost of a second amendment to the Effie Everett Turnpike widening project. Do you need, and also provide Paul with permission to sign all necessary documentation.
Second.
Motion by Nancy Harrington, seconded by Barbara. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? 700. Thank you.
Can we say goodnight to Don?
We can say goodnight to Dawn,
Unless
but
she
she
wants
might
to.
want to stick around for the old business discussion on Continental Boulevard.
Oh, yeah.
More fun.
Even if it's just to
Oh, you want to
observe
go
us.
back and do that, or?
Do
So,
you want to go right to that?
yeah,
Sorry, Chief. All right, we'll do that.
he likes being here with me.
All right.
No, you can sit back if you want.
All right. So the item that we had skipped over temporarily, the old business item of the council review, the amended language to House Bill 2024, and looking for approval of a proposed letter and to allow the town manager to submit it.
So
Transportation.
I just want to give the council a little bit of update. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock, I am meeting with Senator Chanley and a couple of the representatives from our delegation to go over the binder that we paid for when we were looking at the toll, reducing the tolls. I went through a lot of the information when it was done and things of that sort to find out that, to try to debunk a couple of myths that are up in Concord. One is that, first of all, as we all know, Continental Boulevard was built by the state of New Hampshire, and it was from Contra Way to 101A. It wasn't actually Natticook Road. It was not a road that they improved for the town of Merrimack. It's a new road they put in, so that was one of the myths we're going to debunk. The other myth is that we requested the road to be built. And while my research shows so far that back in the mid to late 80s, we requested exit 10 to be built and to upgrade from basically just north of Burger King, going westerly, I guess, westerly, to improve that section of road a little bit to the new industrial drive that they were putting in with exit 10. Found a bunch of stuff back in 1976 when Digital Equipment Corporation was coming into town in the files. Really has no bearing on the Continental piece, but talking about upgrading that section of road as well from the old Camp Sargent Road to Digital, or now Fidelity in that area. Trying to get in front of Senator, and I'm going to butcher her name, Ricciardi, from Bedford, who chairs the Transportation Commission for the Senate. Trying to get in front of her next Tuesday at 11 o'clock with some of our representatives, Senator Chanley, to explain our position to her prior to going to the meeting when they have the hearing. The big thing is that the letter that I wrote prior basically explains and lays out that the road was built in 1992. We didn't ask for it. We've never owned it. I think it's a violation of state law, as well as we actually had to close down a well because in that area the state DOT used salt, and it contaminated one of our wells to the point where we had to close it down, and we had to build a new well. So really what we're trying to do is we're trying to make the point that we think it's unfair for them to give it back to us. Stop punishing us for a decision made 30 years ago that basically said when the bonds for the tolls were paid off, the tolls would be removed in Merrimack. honor your commitment there. There's also some myth that a town manager in the 2011 to 14, a male town manager in the years 2011 to 14, and if we all know our history here in Merrimack, Eileen Cabanel was town manager from 2011 to 2021. So she was a female town manager, not a male
Still.
town manager. So there was no, that's a myth. There's no male town manager that said that. We did find record, and we do know this, that a couple representatives came before the council, and I remember the meeting quite well, and the answer was emphatic, no. We will not take Continental Boulevard to get rid of exit 10.
And your
Take
point
it
was
over.
that legislator, I can only think of the one,
Yeah.
was saying we might want to do that.
Might want to do that,
As
right.
a
As a negotiating tool to try to get it passed. It's funny, because during my research, I found a lot of history about tolls, especially on exit 2 and exit 3 in Nashua, that when they widened the turnpike in the 10-year plan, there was supposed to be toll plazas there, and those have disappeared. And then there was a toll plaza supposed to go somewhere in the exit 4 to exit 7 area, and that never happened. As well, when they talked about in the 10-year plan for turnpikes. So there's a lot of things out there, and really what we want to do is we want to stick to the facts, get our game plan together tomorrow for Tuesday's meeting with the senator, and stick to the facts, and hopefully that it'll be taken out in the committee level of the Transportation Committee like they did last year, and they removed it before it went to a Senate vote. And if they don't take it out in the Senate vote, then hopefully we could work through our delegation to talk to their colleagues in the Senate to tell them how unjust and unfair this is for Merrimack. It's, I don't want to say the commissioner of DOT stretched the truth a little bit. And I,
Not a little bit, a big bit.
big bit. I thought, he's a new commissioner, maybe he didn't have all the facts, but from what I heard, he was with TOT for a lot of years. Significant amount of years, 10, 15, 20, maybe even 30 years. So that he should have the facts of what would happen there. I've talked to people at the state and DOT, and they started laughing when I was explaining this to them. And one of the people, well, actually the person that we signed the agreement with that we just voted on, he says, I was the engineer on that project, and I know you built the road. We built the road. You guys, there was no road there was trees, and we built the road.
Yeah, I know that
So,
too.
there was trees, and so it's some of the, for a person with that many years of history, they should have known that there was no road there, because their workers know there was no road there. So, but we want to stick to the facts, and we're going to stick to the facts, just the facts, Jack. And that's what we're going to try to get the senator to take it up with her committee. When they do hear it, we'll be up there in force. My game plan is I am going to yield the floor up there and let the DOT commissioner speak first this time. Because what happened during the amendment process, from what I could read and what I've been told, is that our representatives went and produced the amendment, and then the DOT commissioner came in, and they didn't want to do it as a
rebut them.
debate, and they couldn't rebut him, and he had the last word. So that's what they heard. So what I would like to do when we go up to the Senate is push it to the DOT commissioner, because they only let you speak once, and it has to be like 3 minutes. And they cut you off from my last go-around when we were up there. I think Councilor Koenig, myself, and it was Kyle Fox who went. Sorry, Finley, it was Kyle Fox, not you, Chairman Morales.
Yeah.
That one up there. I knew there was 3 of us.
And I didn't remember going,
Yeah,
so.
but I remember they cut us off after 3, basically keep it short, keep it 3 minutes. We only have a half an hour for this hearing. Keep moving it along. So hopefully by doing all this work, we can do it. The question I have for you is, I gave you the letter. You've seen the letter. Are there changes that you would like before we send this letter to the committee? And it actually breaks down the cost. That's the other myth that we wanted debunked, is that the state's saying it costs $94,000 for us to maintain that road. It doesn't cost $500,000. And what my point is there is that, yes, you're right, state of New Hampshire. You can take $1.7 million out of your budget to pave a road. If I take $1.7 million out of my paving budget, that's the only 3 miles of road that will get done that year in Merrimack. And I have, 184 center lane miles in this town that need to be looked at over X number of years to be repaved. And we can't spend that much money just on one road. So we do have to plan for that on a yearly basis. Because it doesn't make sense to bond a road, and they have it on an 8-year paving schedule, which to me they know that it's commercial traffic on that road. It's a heavy travel road.
Right now.
If they're paying over it. Right.
If we didn't have heavy commercial, we wouldn't have to repave so often, would we?
Correct. Well, we wouldn't have to use a heavy commercial heavy commercial pavement. So,
That wide,
you know, and then the other myth that they have is that it's only for Merrimack residents. I've driven that road now twice. I've driven it at 12:30 in the afternoon coming from Pennachuck Square to the town of Merrimack, and I've driven it at 4 o'clock at night coming from basically the same area, Enterprise Car Rental, to the town of Merrimack. And both times at the 12:30 in the afternoon, 3 cars turned, I was the 7th car back. 3 cars turned right at Tinker Road to go to Nashua. 3 cars turned, I was the 8th car back, sorry. 3 cars turned right to go on to the F.E. Everett over by exit 10, and one of the vehicles was a tractor-trailer truck, and then myself. That was the 12:31. That was the 17th car back on another one, and 3 cars once again turned down Tinker, 6 cars turned on Industrial, 2 commercial vehicles, 1 car turned on Amherst Road. All right, I'll check that off as a Merrimack resident going home on Amherst Road, because I didn't want to follow him. 2 more cars turned left at the F.E. Everett at exit 10, and 2 cars, myself and another car, turned left on DW Highway. And when I got off at Wire Road, he was going straight. So I'm chalking that one up, but I'm pretty sure he was going through town as well.
So those traffic studies reflect the same.
Reflect it. But, you know, just as a math geek kind of deal, I every time I drive back from the Pennachuck, I try to figure out where cars are going and things of that sort. And at night, if you ever sit there, you watch the cars taking the left on Tinker. They're taking a left on Tinker. They're going up to 101A and taking a right-hand turn. And my final point, I know it's getting late, but my final point on this is that if Continental Boulevard is for Merrimack residents, why are you putting a double right-hand turn lane on 101 by the Volkswagen, the Auto Fair Volkswagen, if it's for Merrimack and not for people to go to the western part of the state? That's my only question. And why are you doing a right turn only lane off of 101A into Pennachuck Square if it's for Merrimack residents? Why are you doing all this improvements if it's just for Merrimack residents? Right? So, those are my points.
And they're all solid. Barb?
Yeah, just a question while people finish looking at the letter. So you have all 8 reps going with you on Tuesday to see the senator. Do you need any of the councilors?
Right now, the Vice Chairman Harrington's going up with me. And I do not know if all 8 representatives are going to be there. I think 4 are going to be there.
They've all been invited?
Yes, they've all been. I don't know if they've all been invited. I am not handling the state rep portion. I'm just handling going. They asked me to go and speak on behalf of the town, and I asked the chair and vice chair if they wanted to go. And I offered the invitation to them. She has a very small office up in Concord.
I know.
She must, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
But if one of our representatives do want to go, talk to Representative Boyd.
All right.
I'm just curious.
Rung and Boyd, Representative Rung and Boyd are coordinating it.
More
Um,
of us.
At this time, no, but I think if we go in front of the legislation, when it goes in front of the transportation, if we don't get a warm and fuzzy after Tuesday, then the more the merrier.
Option B will go.
Yep.
To show up at the committee meeting, yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right.
And they don't have much room there either, probably, but,
So sad,
Yeah.
too bad.
but you can fill it up, yep.
Okay, if there's no other questions, or
I-
we're happy with this
I-
letter?
Yeah, I'm happy with it. I do have a question. If we really believe this is in violation of the New Hampshire Constitution, and if we should happen to lose this vote, do we have an avenue through the judicial system to fight this?
We would go through our attorneys and actually file suit against the state underneath the 28A, violation of the Constitution. And of course, then it would be up to the courts to see if it is. As far as I know, this is the only road that they're doing this to the state, that they built, and now all of a sudden they want to say it's yours. There's other roads that they built to help alleviate traffic from local roads. And they gave those local roads, which were state roads, to the Townsend Committee, but they built another road in its place. So unless they've done something in the last 2 years, which I don't believe they have, looking at the 10-year plan and other legislation, this would be the first in the state that they try to do this to.
So if we,
So you need
Have a mo-
approval for the letter, is that what you're saying?
Correct, to send the letter to the Transportation Committee.
So moved.
motion by Nancy Herron, seconded by Barbara. Any further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 7-0.
And well done, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank
for
you,
all that
thank
effort.
you. And Don helped as well. Don, this started with Kyle. We took Kyle's letter. Don revised Kyle's letter and with some of the information, so
Thanks for all hands.
Can I ask-
Don as well.
Not having it ready for tomorrow, but could we get those traffic studies numbers just for that stretch?
You have those numbers that we got from, when they did the SALT presentation, they gave us, DOT gave us a bunch of numbers, like 18,000 cars in different points. And then
Just
Tinker had
from
like 6.
Pennachuck
Regional planning
up
did
to
it.
Greeley?
Yep.
And those,
Yep.
those streets in between?
We'll get it we'll definitely have it
Because I know
for
it's a
Tuesday.
7. Perfect.
We'll definitely have it for Tuesday.
Again, that just adds on the validation of Merrimack versus.
Yeah.
I added on the one by Burger King.
Burger King, right. you did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
could pull those
Yeah.
and give them to Paul, we could take a
Yeah,
look.
we can have them, and actually, that might, if I can get them tomorrow by 11 for Senator Chanley, so she has them and we can discuss them
And
too.
if not, we can
Right.
get them to her soon.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay,
very good.
thank
We
you.
have to get all of our
Thanks, Don.
ducks
Thanks, Leo.
lined up.
Mhm.
All right. My apologies to the chief, because we're going to move on to
He was thrilled to be here.
item 6 under new business, I could tell. The council to consider the acceptance of recommended changes to Chapter 180, which is the temporary sales locations and vendors of the Merrimack Town Code pursuant to Charter Article 5, and this is a first reading.
I'm bringing Sharon up to the table.
Is this a human resources issue?
No, but Sharon's the one who helped me on this issue.
Oh, okay.
So, last year, the state. Good
No,
night.
I was, not guys, I'm hoping the chief was here just in case, is that what it is?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
He
'Cause
has
I feel
health,
guilty.
he has building and health under him, and 136
Right.
is the health, so he's here for that.
Okay.
So,
I just didn't want him to.
You felt bad in being.
I told you, he likes being here with me.
Well, we like having him here, but.
So last year, the House and the Senate passed legislation basically removing the need for a hawker and peddler license at the state of New Hampshire level. So by doing so, our Chapter 180 became obsolete. So we had to work with our attorneys and see what changes that, by removing that on 180, how our policy should be rewritten, if at all, and looking at this. But in looking at this, because they removed the hawker peddler piece at the state level, food trucks now had to be removed, because we can't ask for a hawker peddler license on a food truck vendor. So by taking that out, we have no legal standing to ask a food, the only person who can inspect a food truck is the health officer. And since we're a self-inspecting community, the only one who can inspect a food truck or give a license to a food truck vendor is the health officer, not the town manager. It's the health officer. However, the town council can still require that if a food truck vendor is selling their food on town property, you can still approve them to selling location. But if they're selling it anywhere else on a private piece of property in town, the only one who can do that, like Anheuser-Busch, All Basics, Fidelity, the Outlet Mall, the only one who can approve those vendor permits is the health officer. The health officer was always approving vendor permits for food trucks.
That's
However,
part-
they were underneath my
Isn't that
signature
part of
as
number
well.
7?
It was underneath 180, yes. So
okay, sorry.
we're removing that section of
Gotcha.
the food truck vendors out of chapter 180, and we move that into chapter 136.
Which is the 7.
But I just want to talk about 180 right now
Yeah,
and not try to
gotcha.
confuse these two.
Okay. My
The other
confusion.
thing when we looked at 180 is the loophole that has been, people have trying to take advantage of, and that was for not-for-profits. So these profitable organizations were saying to a not-for-profit, we'll co-sponsor with you. This way, none of our vendors have to pay the $50 licensing fee because we'll call it a not-for-profit. And instead of charging them $10 to be part of the fair, we'll charge them $15 and I'll give you $5 of every registration. Well, that isn't really what the intent that the council had for not-for-profit. So we tightened that loophole up a little bit as well, saying that a significant portion, and if not all, proceeds would have to go to a not-for-profit. The proceeds would have to go for a not-for-profit. So that tightened that loophole up as well. And those are really the only two major changes that we had. Oh, sir, and then I do want to say one other thing. Yes, the services, I forgot about that. But on food truck vendors, we were able to do background checks because they were underneath 180. The health officer, when we talk about this in chapter 136, that goes away. Because all she is looking at is to make sure they are preparing their food and they are within the health guidelines. She can't say, I need a criminal background check. So that's one of the things that went away by moving food trucks out of 180 to chapter 136. The other thing is that our police department gets inundated when people are walking around neighborhoods, knocking on doors, saying, hey, I represent XYZ. Would you like a salesman to come out and give you an estimate? We're getting the phone calls, hey, I see this suspicious car, there's a guy walking around my neighborhood. Is he casing the neighborhood, whatever. So now we made all those vendors, service organization vendors, whether they're selling goods or not, they have to come in and get a permit and pay the $50. And the reason why we're doing that is because they need to register with the police department. So that when dispatch gets a call, they say, hey, XYZ is here. What's the car? Oh, it's a white Malibu with license plate 1234. Yes, that's the car associated with XYZ company. Yes, they are in your neighborhood and we know about that and they have a permit. And they've been background checked and the background checks and everything else. So that's another thing we put in the 180 because we've been seeing a lot of calls. And that, I'll talk about 136 when we get to it. But that's really the first read, and that's why we're in front of you with 180. The other thing I do want to mention is that all our food licenses, all our yearly permits actually expired on March 31st. I extended them free till 2 months to June 1st, so we can work this process through. And then coming June 1st, we'll have to give them a license. We'll go and they'll get relicensed underneath the Chapter 136 for food vendor licenses. Because there are events that are coming up that we've been getting calls on.
Okay. Anybody have questions? Who would like to move it to a second reading?
Public hearing?
Nobody wants to do anything tonight.
There's a lot of changes and updates and things in here, some of which are marked out reserved and some are marked other things. And I guess I didn't feel like you covered all of what's going on here. You hit some high points. And I mean, I'm willing to go to the next reading. I just don't feel like I want to promote it at this point because I don't understand well enough all the different changes. I mean, if all you're doing is pulling the food trucks out of it and cleaning up the wording, I guess I'm happy with it. But it seems like there's several other things you've talked about doing, tightening up the association with charitable contributions. I didn't see that tightening up. I just saw that being with a charitable contribution organization doesn't necessarily mean that you're a charitable organization. And I agree with that, but I don't know how you separate them out. But anyway, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, yep, I understand where you come from. We'll give you, we'll go through it and give you a better definition on the charitable organization piece.
So would you feel
mean-
comfortable going to a second read and have it?
Yeah, we can go to a second reading. I presume we'll have a chance to go through it some more and understand. I mean, I didn't even know why we were doing this, and so I appreciate you kind of describing that background.
That it really is because of the hawker peddler. And while we did the hawker peddler, we asked the attorney to take a look at it and make sure that what's our 180, make sure it's all legal and what's removing
So,
that.
do we understand why the state stopped requiring hawker peddler licenses?
I can assume why. There was a push to reduce licensing in the state of New Hampshire across the board. There was also a push. I am a certified public accountant. I'm a CPA. Every 3 years, I need to go get my license renewed. Fortunately, that there was a push to kind of make us like RN licensing and professional engineer licensing, which is every 2 years. But they took that piece of the legislation out to keep us, like a CPA is every 3 years still. So, but there's a push to standardize across the board the licensing requirements of the state of New Hampshire. So,
Nancy?
Yeah, I just wanted to say what Paul said is true. There is a contingent of representatives who feel that licensing requirements shouldn't be necessary or should be minimal if they exist at all. That the freedom thing and the liberty thing and that we have too many restrictions and too many, so there's a move to optometrists, hair salons. I mean, the list goes on and on. So this is just one of many attempts to just sort of abolish the necessity for restrictions around licensure and stuff. So it's consistent with what's happening.
Okay. I mean, I can understand that, but in this particular case, with temporary sales, with people showing up in your doorstep and things like that, I think there is a valid reason to be concerned about the public safety, and try to keep control of that. I mean, I've had people show up on my porch and suddenly start pushing for new gutters or something like that, and you kind of wonder, what's the background of this individual? Where are they coming from? Is this company that they're representing, real or live or whatever, and sometimes it's hard to just walk away from them. So having some ability to believe that they've been vetted to some degree is comforting for a lot of people.
and they all play the game, well, we don't sell.
Yeah.
We're not here to sell, we're just here to give that information, and then if they want a salesman, we take their information and we set up a direct appointment with them. And no, you're really selling it, you're just not telling them how much the gutter is gonna cost them, or how much the solar panels are gonna cost them, or how much that, vacuum cleaner,
New driveway or.
Hoover vacuum,
Yes.
yeah.
Nancy?
Yeah, thank you. I wholeheartedly agree with Tom, and I think that's one of the challenges when the state removes sort of the protections that we have for the public. It sort of, I think, leaves us in a position, I don't know whether they have to be ordinances or what, for the town, at local control, because the opposition when we speak to that at the state, and we're not successful, and laws change, it leaves us then at the local level in a really difficult position. So I'm happy that you took the time and checking out where this leaves us, because rather than potentially down the road having a problem or having our police department have a problem. So, agree, this is just one of those licensing issues that are gonna be a.
We actually had a colleague who, it happened to him, door-to-door folks went and stole from him, and about 3 months later, the PD figured out who it was, and went to the hotel room that they were staying in Mass, and got all the stuff back, and he didn't even realize he was missing some of the things that they had taken. He just knew he had some stuff missing, and, so, that's it. But anyhow, sorry about that at the late hour.
So if I could just, throughout this thing, you've crossed out vendors and hawkers and stuff like that. Is that because the terminology was taken out of state law? So you wanted to just say persons?
Yes.
Instead of vendors and hawkers?
Yes, because the state law did away with the hawkers and vendors, so it's just persons.
With that definition, so
Yeah.
you created your own set of definitions or something?
Right.
And just anybody that's doing anything?
Basically, any person who's trying to sell in the town of Merrimack or services in the town of Merrimack, they need a license. Which is, I think, where the council wanted to take 180 anyways, was to make sure that anybody in the town of Merrimack, not that you're against selling in the town of Merrimack, but if they are selling, they've been vetted and to protect the citizenship of the residents of Merrimack. And I think this is like the third or fourth revision of 180.
Yeah, well,
And we're trying to get tighter each time because we're finding loopholes or we're finding things out. And let's face it, these companies are read it and they say, oh, we can get away with this. This is a loophole. Let's get away. The selling versus I'm just coming to give you information.
So I'm just noticing in the title of Chapter 180, you've added hawkers into that title, but everywhere throughout it, you've scratched out hawkers and vendors and made persons or something like that. So
That
it
was
just
gonna be
seems,
one of my questions.
seems interesting. I'm not sure.
The very first part.
Mm-hmm.
Page 1, under Chapter 180 at the top, it says temporary sales locations, hawkers and vendors.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'll have to look at that again. Yeah, I'll have to go back through my notes
Okay.
on why. I know there's a reason, I just don't have it off the top of my head. Why?
right, that's
And
fine.
like
You
I
can
said, it
think
was
about it
vetted
for
by
the
the attorney.
second
so-
showing.
It has been vetted by the
Yeah,
attorney.
actually, I had the attorney look at our thing and write, it to match law, so that we're not gonna
We're not getting in trouble.
get in trouble, because you put an ordinance in play and you don't have an attorney review it and write it, because they're gonna be the ones defending it, and if they don't agree with your language after the fact, it's not a good thing when they're sitting trying to fight it in court if they don't agree with your language you put in play.
On,
But I'll check that out.
on 181, Chapter B, it gets kind of specific about home improvement. Is it too specific? Because, and the
Where-
reason I
where
ask
are
that
you?
is I know at 181, Chapter B,
One
or
80.
paragraph B, I should say, first page,
Oh.
second paragraph there. And the reason I ask that is because I know at my house, I get solar people come by all the time and want to sell me solar. I don't see anything about solar, but I do, does that fit into home improvement? It just
Oh,
seems
yeah.
like we're very specific there about certain categories. And my question is, should we be more general and say, basically, if you're walking around trying to sell something in a neighborhood, whether it's home improvement or not?
Because you could do lawn services at home improvement.
Yep.
Yeah.
Household repairs or improvements.
Siding.
Or add solar.
Yeah.
We could also say some examples are,
Or maybe just say something like not limited to.
they're not limited to, not
Yeah,
limited
something
to.
like that. I just don't want to be so specific that somebody thinks
No,
that
I
it doesn't
understand
apply to
Yeah, I
them.
understand what you're
It's
saying
a
there.
difficulty with listing.
Sometimes you get too tight
Not
that you
limited.
create other loopholes.
Create new loopholes, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
To be an attempt to sell, something like that.
Girl Scout cookies.
That's nonprofit.
But as I was reading through this, you pretty much excluded somebody doing a yard sale on their own property, right? I mean,
Yeah, they could still do yard sales, things of that sort, on neighborhood yard sales, those kind of deals.
Part
So it's
says
not-
if you're selling it on your property and
Right.
you made it, you're good.
Yeah.
Right, I'm trying to, we've had craft fair people come in, and, you know, they've tried to use the umbrella of, I give a donation to the VFW, so I should be exempt. And we're like, okay, let's call the VFW. And we call the VFW, and they're like, what? No.
$50.
And they're like calling up the vendor saying, you gotta follow
Stop saying
town,
that,
you gotta
yeah.
follow town
You're
regulations.
just using us.
You're using the VFW or XYZ, and no, you gotta do that. Another one that comes in every year is Wags to Whiskers. They actually follow this and ask for a waiver from the town council every year, to waive the fee. And we give them a waiver to waive the fee, but they're coming in to waive the fee. So some people are following it and others aren't, and so that's where we're trying, but to answer your point, Tom, yes. If you're selling on your own property, you can still sell on your own property,
Right, like a yard sale. or
like a yard
something, yeah.
sale.
All right, so should,
So we want a motion to move this to a second reading?
Yes,
we
please.
could.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Tom Koenig, seconded by Nancy Murphy. No further discussion on the motion. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstained, 7-0.
And to clarify, we're moving this to a public hearing.
Public hearing,
Public hearing.
second reading.
Second reading.
All right. Number 7.
Somewhat related.
Yes.
Council will consider recommended changes to Chapter 136.
And this is where we had to put the food truck vendors in. So a couple changes with food truck vendors, like I mentioned, we will not be getting background checks on food truck because the health officer cannot require, through her state rules and regulations, background checks. She's just inspecting to make sure that they meet the health standards. The other thing is that we used to have the police department go and look at the vehicles. If the vehicle is registered, it is inspected, it's registered and inspected, that's all police is looking for, you know, to walk around to make sure it's registered and inspected. So they were just looking to see if it had a valid registration and a valid inspection sticker, and most of them do, because they usually drive them here. So we removed that requirement as well. And the other thing we did in 136 is that we moved our fee structure, and we put that in 136, so that it's not relating back to Chapter 180. So 136, the fee structure is the same that we've had in 180. We moved that to 136 as well. Did I miss anything?
So just a quick question. On the first couple of pages, there's a bunch of red that looks like inserts, and on the next pages, it's blue that's inserts and red's crossed out.
That is because of different people making changes. The red is an addition.
If it's not crossed
Yeah,
out, it's an
yeah, if it's
addition.
not- Sorry.
Okay.
There was some ION under Chapter 136, 4. There was a typo, so we fixed that. You'll see it in the blue. It said applicant, and it should say application, so.
Oh, I did say that,
Yeah,
applicant
so-
as opposed to application, yeah.
Yeah. And then 139 was added. It's the way track changes works. With between blue and red, it depends on who adds.
Well, I don't remember ever seeing the blue before.
Well, we've had a couple of different people revise this and add stuff,
Yeah.
so that's why.
Different people.
Because I had to figure it out as I was going through it.
Yeah,
Consistent.
it just seemed odd.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna fill in on 136-17, some number for days, application package, some days prior to the council.
The town
Yeah.
council requires 8 days. We were thinking at least 8, maybe 10, so that Becky gets it from the health officer and is able to get it on your agenda.
Right. Yeah, and that's really what it is, because now they're not coming through the town manager's office, and we say, hey, wait a second, you still need to, if you want to sell at MYA, you just got to come to the council to get their approval, so that your permit's on hold, and once you approve it, then move forward. But like I said, if she's just inspecting the vehicle for proper food, it's like, hey, you still need to
Handling.
go to the town council to get approved for vending on town. So we are gonna fill that in, which is probably, it's either gonna be 8 to 10 days, depending on, you know, the preference. I think 10 days will work. I would like 2 weeks, to be quite honest with you,
So you're saying that they have to come before the town council?
if they're selling on town property.
Okay. And
Why? Because that's the only license that you, in the originals, that you said that I cannot approve, is selling on town property. The town council wants to be the ones to listen to that and
We did
approve
that?
that.
You fought for
I
it.
remember doing it. I don't remember the discussion why.
You don't know that.
No, I don't.
It was.
Very good. But I'm willing to bet he did.
It was an agreement that I believe in one of the revisions, I don't know if it was one of Keith's last revisions or Eileen's first revisions on this, that, you know, hey, we had the hot dog vendor. Remember, we had somebody come in and wanted to be the hot dog vendor here on town property?
Oh, yeah.
Down at Watson,
But they were first, Watson,
Park.
Watson.
but they were first here at the
It was
courthouse.
the dogs. It was deputy dogs.
Yeah, they wanted to be here.
Deputy?
Deputy
And I
dog.
guess after that, the council's like, no, we want to approve where, if they're selling on town land.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a long time
That
ago.
just puts a
Andy?
lot of challenge to them, because they've got to time it, not only for when a council meeting occurs, but
Right.
time before that.
It's usually your ice cream vendor, or if somebody is, like if one of our food truck vendors wants to give all their proceeds to the MYA for a game or something of that sort. They know that, but the thing is, it's not a funny thing, the thing is that because of the licensing that we do now, it's 1 year for your first, you pay X, for a second location, you pay Y, for a third location, you pay Z. For a fourth location, you gotta come in and have those all done at one time. So those one-offs, if they're gonna go and sell to, say, give all their proceeds to the MYA for, at a football game or something of that sort, that's an additional, because they don't, when they come in, they don't say, here you go. And if they do come in and put town property or town fields, it's like, okay, you gotta go see the town council before we approve this application. So,
Was there also something in here about selling at like a parade or something like that? There's special exemptions or whatever if
It's
they're,
popcorn balloons. That was.
oh, popcorn and balloons.
That's in chapter 180.
That's
180,
180.
Well, that was in 180.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I believe it's still there.
It is. Andy.
I didn't realize it wasn't.
If we look at 136-9, that's the
Mobile vendor.
mobile temporary license paragraph that you pulled from 130, what was it, 180 into 136. C, it says for an annual license, and it talks about that it's for one cart, but nowhere in that paragraph does it limit it to one location. But then we have down below 136-9B for multiple locations. So my first question is, in C, should we clarify that that's for one cart, one location?
If you look at B, on the 136.9B, 1 week license, each license shall be issued for a fixed time period up to 7 days. Okay, nope, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. So yeah, we would have to put that in there as a specific license.
Yeah.
Specific
And then-
location.
Well, D says specific location.
Licenses are not transfer, oh yeah, D, sorry, okay, yeah, I knew it was in there. Licenses are not transferable and shall be issued only for a specific cart stand vehicle to be located at a specific location. Additional license
Okay.
shall be required, so it is in there, sorry.
Okay, yeah, I get it now. Thank you. And then if we go down to multiple locations, we say the second location is $100.
Mm-hmm,
The third location is 25.
mm-hmm.
What's the difference between the second and the third that it's a $75 difference?
Those are just,
There's
well,
no,
well,
You're just trying to recover your cost,
Yeah, we're just
basically,
trying to
and there's
recover
no-
costs at that.
Is it $75 more to do a second location than it is a third location? Is that what we're telling the public?
It
If
could
we're
be.
truly, if
It
we're
could
truly
be.
not using this as a value stream, right? If we're truly just trying to recover our cost to issue license, does it really take $75 more to issue the second one than it does the third
It
one?
could, because, for instance, they could be, their first location could be set up at XYZ, where they're there every Saturday. So it's a one-time that we're looking at for their yearly. Then the second one could be an event that we have to go to inspect them at an event, such as like when Anheuser-Busch has a car show or Anheuser-Busch has a concert. So we actually have to go to that event. And then the third one might just be, all right, you're in, we know you're good.
What if the third one's an event? We wouldn't go in and inspect them?
Anheuser-Busch, we don't right now have another location for an event area. It's really just Anheuser-Busch that does the events. So they could be at the Vault, Able Ebenezer's, and then, or Anheuser, what they'll do is the Vault, Anheuser-Busch, and then Able Ebenezer's. And Able Ebenezer's is just taking the vehicle from X to Y, so they've seen it, but an event, you have to check them out and make sure they're properly staged and everything else. It's a cost that we did, we chose $100. It seems to have worked with the vendors, they really like the tiered approach to additional. And it's cheaper than them coming in and getting it's a $50 license for a one day. It was 75 for, it was 50 for a one day and 100 for something.
Didn't we look at other towns too?
We looked at other towns too when we did this last year. We just,
Less, I think.
yeah.
I
We
just
were
remember
less.
that being part of the initial. as
I mean, I'm not willing to fall over my sword on it, but.
No,
it just-
I understand where
it-
you're coming
it-
from. Let me do
I don't
more-
see any rhyme or reason to it.
Let me
It
do
just
more
seems to
research
me
at the
like,
pub-
seems made up.
Let me do more research for you at the public hearing. Let me go back to the notes because we had a long discussion
Yeah,
about the fee
I
structure at the
somehow
180.
remember it, and I can't remember.
And
all
we
the
just
details.
copied the fee structure over. So let me look at and do some research and I'll bring it back at the public hearing.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
You beat this one up a couple of times.
I think we did last time, and I don't know that I was any more satisfied with it when we did it last year than I am now. But
So you-
again, if everybody else is satisfied with it and it's just me, then I'm gonna shut up and
At
call
least
it.
you're consistent there.
Thanks, Andy.
So this has to go to a public hearing.
Public hearing as well.
Yeah.
So moved. To a
Motion by
public
Nancy,
hearing.
to move to
Public hearing,
Second, public
second
hearing.
reading.
I'll make a second.
and seconded by Mackenzie. No further discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 700.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
And
Thanks, Sharon.
please have that
Thanks, Chief.
information ready for Counselor Hunter.
Yeah, and just tell him the date and time stamp on the video, and he can spend his evening watching it, and then let me know.
Oh.
Probably watched myself arguing against it last year.
I'm gonna pull the minutes and see if, who approved the $25 versus the $100 last year.
The only time I watched us is when we got a pickup truck for the PD. I went and rewatched that budget meeting. But anyhow.
And you relive it often, every budget season.
No more. I've let it go except for tonight. I just mentioned it, but. All right. Next on the agenda, approval of March 28th, 2024 minutes.
I reviewed it briefly and didn't find anything that I wanted to change.
All right.
So I'd be happy to move the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion by Tom Koenig, seconded by Barbara. All those in favor of the minutes of March 28th signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed or abstained? 7-0.
I'll abstain.
Oh, you weren't here, I'm sorry. Oh, seven,
Right.
6-0-1 with
Mackenzie were not
Mackenzie
here.
abstaining.
So it's two abstains.
5-0-2 with,
Math is getting
and
tough
with
now.
Mackenzie and Andy abstaining. All right, comments from the press, comments from the public, comments from the council. Nancy?
Actually, I'm not, should I say anything before tomorrow? I was just gonna thank the public. Because it's really not official till tomorrow.
Oh, right. You can, yes.
Oh, I was going to thank them.
Okay.
I think you can.
We thank you. No, I just want to thank the public for re-electing me to this position, and I promise to honor that trust that you've put in me and do the best that I can. Thank you very much.
And I would extend my thanks as well, especially to all of Merrimack that did come out, with the plus 5,000 plus people that came out. I thought that was a great turnout. I was so afraid it would be less than 3,000, and we have so few people showing up to do things. I'm a little disappointed that our town budget went down, but I'm happy that our capital reserve funds and our union contracts passed, and that we passed the aggregation committee program for the electric purchasing, as well as the other items on the budget. So thank you very much, Merrimack, for coming out and voting on a beautiful day.
Yeah.
And for re-electing me for another term.
Absolutely. Nancy?
Yeah, I'd like to say the same. Thank you to all the Merrimack voters. Agreed. One of the things we want is to have informed voters and for people to show up, whether we share the same opinions about warrant articles or not. It's just the fact that people are interested is great. So I thank everybody. Again, I'm honored. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
And the three of you need to show up tomorrow so you can get sworn in after 5 o'clock.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
actually,
I could do it tomorrow, after 5?
Well, technically, the recount period ends, I believe, around 5 o'clock. So if you want, you can come in Monday to get sworn in. But you need to be sworn back
maybe Paul
in.
will bring the coffee.
And I do, sorry, don't mean to take up, I forgot to mention this, and I knew I had another town manager's announcement. Diane Trippett, after 30-plus years of service with the town of Merrimack, has, her last day will be tomorrow, April 12th. For all those that are still watching us at 10 o'clock at night, please come by. We will be having an open house tomorrow from
11 to
11 to 2, and come by and say goodbye to Diane, and wish her well in her future endeavors. So, and that will be in the town memorial room over in the other building right past where you register your cars. I know Diane's been a fixture for over 34 years with the town, almost 35 years. Basically, she's 1 month short of 35 years. So wish her well in her future endeavors, and she will be missed.
absolutely.
She has to swear Brenda, yes, she does have to swear Brenda in tomorrow. The other thing is that as well, want to thank Lynn Christensen for her 30-plus years as moderator. In my time here in Merrimack, she's been the only moderator I've known. However, there was one before her that I might have went to like one meeting as a high school kid that I had to go to. But Lynn's been a fixture as well, moderating our deliberative sessions in our town elections for the last 30 years. So I want to wish Lynn also well in her endeavors in the future. I'm sure she'll be around, and town council next election, you can get her as one of your delegates now.
She committed to me that she was coming back, so.
I always
Diane
have fun remembering my first election in '95 when I ran for, I think, Planning and Building Committee, and I asked for one of those sample ballots so I could write the numbers down, and she looks at me and goes, "Who the heck are you?" I've been involved since then, so I'm still new in town, but, I've been around for a while.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I appreciate everything tonight, so thanks for the effort from the chief. Motion by Nancy Harrington, seconded by Barbara. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? 700. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, you made it before the 10 o'clock deadline. I know.